Se mira que tira chingos de pipe, güey. He just got half of the stadium pregnant with that look. Mírale, fumando un pinche cigarro, tirando gang signs, looking like he just left a Nicaraguan prison, looking to pound all the puss. ¿Qué va a hacer el güey? ¿Qué va a hacer el vato? No digas que he's gonna ride a bull. Pues espérate, güey. Espérate, hold on to the bull, güey. Le vale verga, güey. This is con el pinche cigarro todavía en la pinche boca, güey. Le vale verga a todos los... Get out of there. Rodeo clowns, you know, where he's just like, give it all to me, bull. Ahora ya se va a caer, güey, no, he's still holding on, güey, oh no, I thought he was done for. This is the greatest athletic achievement I have seen in my life, bro. Oh, this is better than Kobe's 81-point game, than Usain Bolt's 100-meter dash, man. This is breaking all sorts of physics with su pinche... Este vato se...
Bienvenidos to the Latino Slant. It is another live edition of the week. Special packed show with, of course, box office actuals. Barbie hits $1 billion, Meg doesn't disappoint, and the Firme Heina returns with Becky G and Bruna. But also we have Robert Meyer Burnett in our list of the top 5 movies of 2023 so far. Pues vámonos. What's going on, everybody? Hello. Hey, it's the week. This week, episode No Que Sea. It's Paulie. It's the Latino Slant. Every Monday, 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And we already have some early birds. If you got the early bird seats, then you just saw some macho brilliance. Macho brilliance with that bull ride, eh? Oh man, that bull ride was something else. Okay, it's good to be here. We have a really incredible show lined up for you guys. We'll get some news, box office stuff. Of course, we have Robert Meyer Burnett coming in and give you a sneak preview of his top 5. I haven't heard of 4 of them, so you know we're in for a treat. I have my top 5. I also have my biggest disappointment of the year. Not a big surprise. And then we have all kinds of other golden nuggets going on. And so here's what I'd like you guys to do. Before I bring up the first little news item, is I would love for you guys to say hello, share the link, and smash the like. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get all you beautiful people and your friends in here. New people, old people, members, all that good stuff. Welcome to the Latino Slant. Did I close the poll? I don't know what's going on with the poll. You know, I did not do it on purpose. No. We have a poll going on, Fletcher.
Is it still up?
It's a new poll.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was, let's just get right to it. We'll get right, since you interrupted me.
I didn't interrupt. What's in the back?
Listen, the Feed Me Heina battle is back. Now you can vote. But you know, since you brought it up, I put the initial voting up yesterday, and I guess maybe there's a 24-hour thing, but it ended.
Well, that's new, because we've always had like it, before.
Yeah, but never that much leeway. I felt well, look, the point is it did close, and so I started a new poll, but it's the same voting guys. Now let's get to who these two ladies are, because I got a feel a lot of people know who Becky G is. Not so much Bruna. So why don't you give us the 411? Do you do that in the video here?
I just let you know basically you know, the things that we cover, age, height, where she's born, and stuff like that. She does television and stuff like that. She's big in
Brazil,
like articles and stuff like that, and she has a huge following because she does like makeup tutorials. And
you're talking about
really,
Bruna.
I'm talking about Bruna. Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about
And-
Bruna.
Yeah, and she's also big because she was Neymar's girlfriend, and
The
that
soccer player, not the bad superhero in Wakanda.
there's a bad superhero named Neymar in Wakanda. What? Yeah. We're talking about the football player, and so that man, she suddenly became like a worldwide sensation because at the time Neymar was playing in he played in Europe.
World Cup.
Right, plus with the World Cup, but also he plays in Europe and in Spain and stuff, and then he went to France.
Okay.
So she, being a editorial model and an actress.
See, you're saying way too much, bro. Come on. It's
I'm
like,
just letting you know.
bullet points, bro. Bullet points.
She's famous for
Brazilian,
being hot.
She's hot.
Yeah,
She's
there
a
you go.
model. She's an actress.
Okay, well.
She
Done.
literally has the country behind her right now because she is the female lead in Blue Beetle.
Right.
And then you have Becky G. Okay, see, we gotta sharpen it up, bro. We gotta sharpen you up. We have to sharpen you up. Good door. Are you ready? Are you ready, audience?
I don't think they're ready.
This video is brilliant, guys. Here we go.
Aqui é o Brasil.
Aqui é o Brasil. Did you get in trouble for getting this photo?
I instantly deleted it. As soon as I do your video and I send it to you, I delete all photos.
So the wife doesn't. Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
I'm doing it for Paul. I'm doing it for the slant.
Correct. I'm doing it for Paulie. It's all your fault. I'm sticking to that.
Age 28. She just turned 28.
Yeah.
Okay, where was she born?
Oh, she's born in Duque de Caxias.
There you go. There you go, from Rio. Okay.
Yeah, Rio de Janeiro.
So part of the capital.
Nope, the capital is Brasilia.
I always get that mixed up. All right.
A lot of people.
Yeah. Vote now, guys. Great photo. The song, love the song.
Aqui é o Brasil.
Whoa. You madman.
Delete.
You madman.
Delete and burn.
Now you're gonna get me in trouble. Flexing the toxic macho. This is a Firme Haina battle. Bruna. That's there happening. Okay. Now we go to the American Becky G from Compton, I believe.
Inglewood always up to no good.
Inglewood. That's right. Huge singer.
Yeah, he's blown up.
I mean, Michael's supposed to give me word. You're not. I mean, it literally is impossible. These two it's impossible. For sure, I'm so convinced Bruna, and I'm remembered how just beautiful Becky's face is.
Oh yeah, these are they're the top of the game right now.
5'1".
Yeah, chaparrita.
Chapa. This is the Firme Haina battle. Bruna versus Becky. Vote now. Poll is in the chat. Becky G. And listen, this is the thing too. They're both in Blue Beetle.
Yeah. So Blue Beetle Heina battle.
Blue blip 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 blip.
Blip, 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 blip,
So
blip, blip.
Becky G is gonna be the voice of the scarab, the Kaiser
Yeah.
dude.
Right.
Who do you guys got? Let me know right now. So that's a beautiful shot. Beautiful smile. Beautiful smile. You bad. You a bad man. You a bad man. Vote now, Slantinos. Vote often, as they say, depending on what state you're from.
That's right.
Very good. Inglewood.
Always up to no good.
Está el mejor canal cultural. Yes, we're all about the culture. Do your best. Do your best, man. Do your best. Return of the Firme Haina battle. Thank you so much.
It's back
It's back.
with a vengeance. With a beetle. It's back with a beetle.
With the Blue Beetle vengeance. Now, before we get into the box office, we do have a Bruna Blue Beetle news item, which I think is, you got the voting thing here, and you got this really sweet video of Bruna being shown the billboard for the first time, like she hasn't seen it. And let me tell you guys right now, let me bring it up. It is kind of a prized possession as far as like where this is at. Do you know what I'm saying? Like physically where the billboard is at, it is the most Hollywood you could get. Everyone sees it.
It's kind of like the Hollywood and Vine of New York, right? Because that's
it's better. It's actually Sunset and right past Crescent Heights, and it's at the base of the hotel Chateau Marmont, where all the movie stars and celebrities go and do their press conferences. It's right there at the base. So if you're driving west on Sunset, bam. And this is like before like the Whiskey a Go-Go, all those famous spots. So let me share this. What do we got here? Okay. Let's bring it up. Got a little Portuguese here as well. And if you're just getting here, welcome. Hello. Smash the like. Share the link. Good to have you here.
You're subscribed.
Let's blow it up. Let's keep bringing some good people in here. Bruna sees Blue Beetle billboard. And yes, this is Xolo Maridueña with her. I don't know what the relationship is like. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it seems like they're chummy now.
It's very chummy. Good word. Chummy. All right, let me put this up. Here we go.
This guy.
That's Xolo. Bringing Bruna out.
You take off for her, okay?
Okay, so she's about to the blindfold, right?
Right.
So we're gonna be right now. We're facing east. When you turn around, it's due west on Sunset Boulevard. Here we go.
That's you over there.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, chummy.
Very chummy, but very sweet. Xolo bringing her out there. I don't know when this was taken. I don't know if it was before the strike, after strike. What I do know is that the director posted this. not the actors.
Yeah, because they can't post it, right?
I mean, technically, yeah. I think, yeah, they get in big trouble. They would get a lot of shit.
Yeah, which is
Like, it's not
unfortunate because they're not really promoting it, are they? They just, I mean, this is a moment, right?
They can't. Now, if they were to put it on their own social media with all their millions, I mean, she's got what, millions of followers? That's better than any promotion.
Right.
But yeah, the hug.
But can she repost it?
You know what I just noticed? That's a cut.
Oh,
They're hugging.
yeah.
They keep hugging. That's a cut.
That's a kiss.
That's a kiss. There is a freaking kiss right there.
That's a kiss.
Ándale pues.
No
mames. Todo first film crush y todo.
Nice.
That's what I call. That's how Xolo is gone Hollywood. Good on him. That's a huge billboard, man. Friggin' A. And she just celebrated her 28th birthday, Bruna. And she plays Ted Kord's daughter. Ted Kord has disappeared. He's not dead in the film storyline. And she's trying to protect the Scarab from Susan Sarandon. So it's going to be interesting if we get Ted Kord to show up in this film at all. I think that would be amazing.
Well, they did hint that there's going to be some, you know, there could be some other heroes talked about. You know, Xolo already kind of said something about that.
So there you have it. The Bruna news. 46 people here live with us so far. We really appreciate and love each and every one of you. And each and every one of you have made this channel a success, this unique channel that we have of ours. And the uniqueness doesn't stop because we have a Blue Beetle event happening, and it is sold out. Fletcher Williams sold out
at capacity.
Yes, we should say at capacity. What we did is that we got together with Film Threat, Latin Heat Media, Hispanic Coalition of Small Businesses, and we bought out the house. It's the 7:40 p.m. screening. We bought the whole house, and then we gave out all the tickets. We just gave them out. We got students coming. We have people from Film Threat coming. We have people from Latino Slants coming. James Watari and Jesus Davila donated. And everyone's donations, like people were donating, it's going to the, like I had to pay for the theater. I'm paying for everyone's snacks and treats. And then everyone's getting these badass goodie bags.
Yeah, it's gonna be epic.
We're not messing around.
This is the first Latino slant theater takeover.
Right.
Hopefully one of many to come. And how do you know about this stuff? How can you tell when this stuff is happening? And do you want to be part of the next Latino slant takeover? You become a member of the channel.
Yeah, definitely become a member of the channel. They were talking about it on Midnight's Edge this morning in regards to doing a kind of USO type of tour, movie tour. I just mentioned, let's take a movie like El Mariachi or El Cantante, you know, something in the last 30, 40 years that is, you know, that one great Latino film. And let's hit Boston with Eric O'Sullivan. Let's hit Dallas with all the cool people in Dallas, Daryl the Derelict, you know, etc. Just an idea, guys. But let's rejoice in this one as people are still coming in and joining us. New people, smash the like, share the link. It's out on Twitter, and we're just so happy that you guys are filing in here. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys. That night, I will be there. Romy Diaz, Chris Gore, Cameron Pasha. I mean, we're gonna be hanging out, and then we have all these wonderful sponsors, man.
Right.
Donating. Yeah, there they are. Daily Cella, the Goddess Mercado, James Rotari, Jaime Gutierrez Esquire. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be awesome, man. Totally awesome.
It's gonna rock.
Well, thank you. We got through all the Blue Beetle stuff, which is fun, which is great. You guys got the voting poll. Anything you want to say before I let you go for a little while?
No, I just want to thank everybody who made this great event a success. And don't forget, become a Santino member, but also make sure you are subscribed. Sometimes YouTube, play some little things and unsubscribe. So just double check, make sure you are subscribed. If you do it right now. And help us get to 10K. Share this with everybody. All right, I'll be in the back.
Órale pues. Thank you, Fletcher. All right, so let's talk about the box office before Robert Meyer Burnett gets here, and we can, continue this fantastic stream. I was looking over my shoulder. I'm such a stickler for detail that the light over my shoulder switched from green to red. I want my green back. All right, let's get to the box office. Well, this weekend you had Barbie cross 1 million, which is really kind of unprecedented, and you got to give props to the fans of Barbie and to that movie. Warner Brothers is sitting real pretty right now because not only do they have Barbie, they have the Meg too, which is, I believe, the second biggest movie of the weekend, which was to a lot of people surprises. I wasn't surprised. I saw it. That movie was ridiculous, just silly ass fun. But here are the numbers, guys. I want to point out, let's go over a couple of these numbers with you guys. Okay, as you know, Barbie hit 1 billion worldwide. It's over 459 million here in the States. Now, the Meg 2 made 30 million, and you're like, oh, well, that's not so much, Paul. That's not a big deal. Here's the thing, guys. It's made over 120 million globally. Put it all together. They smashed expectations. If you want to just a pure escapism, silly ass, stupid, fun movie, Meg 2 is the one for you. Meg 2 is the one for you. I got to tell you, I basically have seen the top 10, every movie in the top 10. Oppenheimer is doing very well. I believe it crossed over 500 million worldwide. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was not a fan of, and there it showed up. Haunted Mansion, which for me, I enjoyed Haunted Mansion more than I enjoyed Barbie, Meg 2, and definitely Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's just dying. It's dead. 62% drop. And then, that I'm a little bummed out about that. It's such a sweet story. It's so well done. Great entertainment. And it's got a nice identity, great cast. Listen, if there's a film you want to go check out of all these, and you've seen Barbie and Oppenheimer, I say Haunted Mansion way before the Meg 2 or Teenage Mutant Ninja. There's completely perfect family friendly film. I want to talk about a couple of more things in regards to the top 10, because everyone is talking about the internationally. Barbie has done huge in Mexico with over 48 million, in Brazil with over 39 million. Now, if the Blue Beetle, which they're hitting the Blue Beetle is, as far as marketing, they're hitting. Let me find there we go. The Blue Beetles, as far as guerrilla marketing, they're hitting hard Mexico and Brazil right now. I'm following all this stuff in, Spanish circles and all that stuff. That I'm like, if they can get a smidgen, I know Warner Brothers is like, you know what, we're going to put all our resources into the Spanish market, Brazilian market for the Beetle. I think it's brilliant. I like what they're doing. If they can get a smidgen of that Barbie money from Brazil and from Mexico, they're going to do very well internationally. Very well. And let me tell you guys right now, several Brazilian cinemas are selling out already. And we have a couple of sold out screens here in Century City and in Burbank for the Blue Beetle. So I'm very curious to see that, because a lot of channels and a lot of people have really just totally said that Blue Beetle is just gonna flop big time. So I see a nice crest wave going on for Warner Brothers in regards to Barbie and the Meg. I also want to point out one more thing before we wrap this up, and our special guest is in the green room. He's so special that I've missed him. I can't believe it's been a few months since we got on a stream together, my friend. Now let me show you one more thing here. Okay. Insidious the Red Door has made $80 million stateside. It has now made over $182 million globally, passing the Megan as the #1 horror film of the year. That's insane. I haven't seen it yet. Insane. Now, we're big horror fans here. Me and Romy went to Talk to Me last week. It's now one of my top 5 movies. I highly recommend Talk to Me. But I wanted to point that out to you guys in regards to Insidious, the Red Door, that it's all about the global, man. It's all about the global, which I will say Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning did disappoint globally. I think it was I think it was just a kind of because of the times and the timing. Tom Cruise knew, man, I'm screwed. They got Oppenheimer taking over. We got the Barbie thing going on. He couldn't make it right, man. I will say one last thing about Mission Impossible. Dead Reckoning Part 1. When Dead Reckoning Part 2 comes out, may I suggest, Paramount, that you re-release a week prior, or maybe re-release it with Dead Reckoning Part 2, Part 1, do a double feature, make it a special event to where you can, see Part 1 and Part 2 back to back for whatever price for only this first week. There I could see you guys really kind of getting that I don't even want to say money back, but kind of like the enthusiasm that Top Gun had for this Tom Cruise piece. All right, everyone, that is really it for the box office actuals. Our special guest is here. Here is what we're going to do. We're going to take a music break for about a couple minutes. And when we come on back, we're going to have Robert Meyer Burnett with us. Now, this music break is courtesy of a new little channel we've started. And let's get the links going on in the chat. It's a real simple channel. All I'm doing is every day putting up one short, and it's just Latino music. That's it. And that's it. I mean, that literally, it's called in Spanish musical short. Okay, so let's bring up 2 quick songs. It's about 2 minutes long from Gaby Moreno, and then we'll be right back. Enjoy this musical short, 2 songs from Gaby Moreno, and make sure you are subscribed to our new channel, Cortitos Música. Link is in the video box description.
así pasan los días y yo desesperando y tú contestando quizás, quizás, quizás. Y así pasan los días y yo desesperando y tú contestando quizás, quizás, quizás estás perdiendo el tiempo pensando, pensando lo que más tú quieras. ¿Hasta cuándo? ¿Hasta cuándo? Malagueña. Sabrosa, besar tus labios quisiera, besar tus labios quisiera, malagueña salerosa. Y decir de niña hermosa que eres linda y hechicera, que eres linda y hechicera, como el candor de una rosa.
All right, there you have it. Welcome back to the Latino Slant, and hopefully you got to enjoy some of that music. Here's the thing with all that. We have now about 3 years of footage from live performances, people coming on here to me getting out there, and it's like, let's release it, man. It's one of our bedrocks of the Slant was I mean, I just started off as a music channel, so this is my way of getting back to it. There's a link in the comments as far as our cortitos música. Let's get through these comments really fast. I don't want Barbie to beat Mario. See it as a win for cinema. They subvert expectations. I don't know what that is in regards to. Meg 2, no, it's fun. It's dumb fun. Guardian still in the theater. Shaking my head. You know, a lot of people love that film. The new Ninja Turtles movie was I have to disagree. I have to agree with you. Looking forward to Blue Beetle. Well, wait a minute. Looking forward to Blue Beetle. So am I, hombre. So am I. Okay, great. Fantastic crowd we have. Again, share the link. Let people know we're here. And let's just bring in our real good buddy. You ready, brother? He's got his drink. You know him, you love him from the Burnett work. Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, it's good to see you, sir.
Hombre. You as well.
Just want everyone to know I'm just drinking water. I'm only on the water now.
Is it cold water you're drinking?
Oh, yes. I'm drinking about 10 mason jars full. Elizabeth bought, I hate glasses. They're too small. You can never get enough. Mason jars full of ice water. I'm doing 10 of them a day for no other reason than I just love it.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a big jug.
Yeah.
It has to be. Like, I'm already running low.
You know, in the heat and you know, because I was drinking too much. And there are times when sometimes I'll just stop drinking for like a year or two.
Nice.
And I don't miss it. I just like the act of drinking, though. So water.
Yeah.
And I feel my skin looks wonderful.
You look good, hombre. You look
Now I'm
good. And I
losing
saw
some weight. You know,
you're losing weight.
yeah.
Now, I saw you. You guys were in Palm Springs this weekend.
Mhm. So Elizabeth's cousin is visiting from France. Her cousin, and his girlfriend. And the last time he came to America, he was a little kid. So now he's in his 40s, and we've been having the best time. We took him up. You know, living out here in the Inland Empire, I forget how much there really is to do out here. So outside my front door, it's a 45-minute drive to Lake Arrowhead.
Oh, that's right.
So, you know, you're up in the mountains at 6,000 feet, and it's a whole different world. You're at this
You're
like
there.
resort lake. I mean, I expect to find Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze reenacting Time of My Life, you know, or whatever from Dirty Dancing. It's that kind of a place. And there was all these families up there, and we just walked around and had dinner with Elizabeth's folks. And then yesterday we took them out. They didn't understand that. No, Palm Springs is 30 minutes away. So we went to Palm Springs. It was, 110
You did that in
degrees.
one day?
Yeah, because we're only 30 minutes away from downtown Palm Springs.
And it's a nice quick drive.
It was quick. There was nobody driving, and there was nobody in Palm Springs because it was so hot. So everybody, my grandparents had a house in Palm Springs for 50 years. So I used to go. They would live half the year in Palm Springs. So it's kind of like my home away from home. So going there it's a lot of fun. And they'd never been there, so everything was new to them. And being in the desert, and you forget because
France.
We take it for granted. I mean, they're looking around at, Palm Springs is butted up against these giant craggy mountains, these desert mountains. It's absolutely beautiful. And even though it was 110 degrees, it's a dry heat, as Hudson would say in Aliens.
Okay, so I love that. I'm a desert boy. I mean, I really am. I love the heat.
Me too.
To me, it's not hot. It's not like uncomfortable unless it's over 100. Then you're like, ooh, I'm going for, because of that. Romy knows, so we're spending my birthday weekend in Palm Springs next month, hombre. So we gotta figure something out.
Oh well, if you are, we could just drive out there. They've got an Ace Hotel out there that's so much fun.
We're right next to it, Caliente Tropics.
Oh yeah, and we were told, a buddy of mine who actually lives there said to go to the Tropicale for dinner. Fantastic place.
Yeah,
the food was great. Everything was great.
I'm a huge Palm Springs and Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead. My dad reminded me he used to live up there, and we were talking about the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya new documentary that came out, and how De La Hoya had his boxing camps up there.
Yeah,
and my dad would run into him.
Oh, it's
saying he was
everybody's really
guy.
nice. I ran. It's so funny because I was with, Elizabeth parents, or they're older and they don't. It's hard to explain what YouTube is and all that. And we were there for like 2 minutes, and somebody heard my voice and came over and introduced themselves. Oh my God, I'm a huge fan of yours. So my relative,
parents,
they're in front of the parents, in front of the relatives from France, and they're all just looking at me. And he was up there taking pictures of people. How people, you see that guy, can I take a picture of you randomly in New York? He was doing that. And he said, I'd love to take some pictures of you guys. So he took pictures of us, and then I gave him my contact information, and he's printing them up in black and white, and then he'll send them to me. But it's just wild because you forget, like I sit here in the observatory and we're talking to nothing. I mean, I'm talking to you now, but when I do my show, I'm talking to a little tiny green light.
Amen. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's really funny because people are always saying, you're so engaging as a speaker. And I'm like, it's something you kind of have to learn because, most of the time I don't see someone else. I mean, we stream with somebody, we see other people, obviously. But for the most part, you're talking into a green light.
Well, I think it helps that we have spent time, like we've broken bread together. Like we've hung out.
We saw a movie that not a lot of people liked, but we liked.
I love that film.
And I stand by that movie. I think it's totally misunderstood. It's misunderstood.
It's our Barbie. It's our Barbie.
Well, people wanted, we're of course speaking about Matrix Resurrections or Resurrection.
You had to mention it.
But what I find so interesting about that movie is everybody hates it because it's not what they wanted it to be.
Right.
not what
Right.
it is. And I think as more and more people discover it and watch it, I mean, you could say, okay, I'm a little disappointed in the action in that movie, but what's really interesting is Lily Wachowski. It was Lana. Or was it Lana? Lana? Lana. I think it was Lana. Lana
Yeah.
Wachowski. She said that what she learned directing Sense8 in terms of being in the moment, like the Matrix movies are completely storyboarded to the nth degree, especially the first Matrix. I mean, the whole thing was storyboarded, shot by shot by shot. So they knew exactly what they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And Lana said that she was bringing what she learned working in TV, which is going to be, she's going to film it immediately. Like however it was happening on set, that's what she was going to do. And she wasn't beholden to these storyboards. So it's a different kind of a movie, and maybe the action isn't Matrixy enough, but it's such a weird meta commentary on a franchise film and stuff. I think that as the years go by, it'll be one of those movies that people rediscover again, because everyone was expecting a fourth Matrix movie. And it is a fourth Matrix movie, but it's also a movie that's commenting on what it means to be a Matrix movie. And I thought it was, the more I watch it, I'm like, this movie, I can't believe this movie got made.
What it means to be a Matrix movie, a franchise movie,
Yeah,
under a corporation. She even has the corporation in the film. I mean, it was brilliant. Yeah. I mean, and then you had some Matrix-y action in there.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Carrie-Anne Moss kicking ass. Come on. I mean, come on, brother. But
yeah.
I'm so happy you're getting out and around in your county, because I know you moved there from like the Pasadena area, which is just a total, you're in a total different planet, you know.
Yeah, it really is.
You know,
but it's been a lot of fun. I love it out here. The people out here, it's small town vibe, you know, college town. But really interesting. There's a big high tech company out here. Because I was wondering, because I love to drive around and explore,
mm-hmm.
and there's the Moreno Valley on the other side of the hill, and that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this really big high tech company that employs a lot of people. Because I wondered, there's a lot of wealth here. Like if you go, it's really weird, interesting. It's sort of stratified. So if you go up the hill, there's all these gigantically lovely houses and stuff. And I'm like, who lives in these houses? Like, what do they do? And then I found out that there's this giant tech company that's a global tech company that's
really
here. Yeah. I'm like, oh, now I understand.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, but it's nice.
Is it nice?
I mean, no, but I mean, it makes it nice in the sense that there's money being pumped into the local infrastructure and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
I'm just visualizing like you looking over your mountain hilltop, and then you're seeing like this creepy, like, you know, castle-like corporation like colonized.
The corporation is down the hill. So
okay.
but it's funny because it's this beautifully landscaped place, and it looks like something from a David Cronenberg movie where they'd be genetically engineering humans or something in there, but it's not. It's actually geo positioning software that they make, and they supply to militaries around the world and Amazon and UPS and all this stuff. So
speaking of, we recently saw rewatch Dead Ringers.
The TV show or the movie?
The movie.
The movie is so good. It's a masterpiece. What's amazing is that movie was made in the 80s, but the Jeremy Irons is acting with himself, and you can't tell.
And I don't know, had that ever been done before him? Well, you know, I was thinking about that, because it kind of is like a thing now.
Not like that.
Because I was thinking of The Flash, you know.
Yeah. Well, now they do everything, you know, they do face replacements. Back then they had to shoot things twice.
Right.
You know, and they were shooting film, so they'd backwind the camera and do other exposures, and sometimes they do use blue screen and stuff like that. But it was crazy good. And that movie's almost so twisted.
Yeah, it almost I mean, it's definitely for me like, you know, Black Mirror. It inspired Black Mirror. It inspired like a lot.
Oh,
like
yeah.
What we're seeing nowadays. I mean, yeah, that's a wonderful film, man. And Yeah, it definitely has gotten better with age.
Oh yeah.
So it's been a few months, brother.
It's been months. I just would like to give a shout out
Mhm.
today about the passing of William Friedkin,
Let's do it.
who's one of my favorite directors of all time. You
There
know,
you
and
go.
I've been banging on to my channel about To Live and Die in LA coming out in 4K. It was delayed by a year. It finally came out from Kino Lorber. And, you know, Friedkin really shaped a lot of my whole premise of verisimilitude, the quality of being real. He was one of the directors, I think, that best embodied that idea because he came out of documentary filmmaking. And when he made The French Connection and Exorcist, to me, those are like peak creating reality within the frame. Both of those movies, and Sorcerer, and even to a certain extent, Cruising. By the way, this Hollywood Reporter
What'd you think of this article?
obituary is really good.
Really good.
It's really, really good. Yeah.
It's so thorough that I had to stop because we were starting the show, and I was like, this is not like a little blurb, and
No.
good on Hollywood Reporter to do this. To Live and Die in LA, man. When we've talked about it, and then with the new Exorcist coming out, and then the French Connection getting censored.
I know.
You know, it's almost like you got to pay attention to the masters, to the originals here.
Well, I mean, also, it was a time where people were much more realistic about life. You know, and the French Connection was made coming out of the 60s, and it was made, we're still embroiled in Vietnam. We had incredible social upheaval, and the French Connection is about two very racist cops. Racism ran rampant in that time, but and Friedkin, like Michael Mann, would delve into, he interviewed a lot of these guys for real. And, you know, now everybody has this idea that we live in some kumbaya world where no one's offended. Like, I should get to live in a safe space. And I've never thought that. And Friedkin certainly never did. And his films reflected that. And what's really interesting about Friedkin's career, too, especially in this day and age, one of the first three movies, I think the last of his movies before he made French Connection, was he adapted a play that had gay subject matter, which was The Boys in the Band, about a group of gay men. And that didn't make any money, but it was groundbreaking for the time. And then he went on a little bit more than a decade later, and made this notorious film Cruising that's set in the leather daddy gay underworld of New York that was heavily criticized upon release. That it's a murder mystery that's actually based on a true story. But a lot of people, when it was getting made, when it was getting made, people were hammering him about it. And it's interesting. He was on the cutting edge in a number of ways. And The Exorcist is still my favorite horror movie of all time. So
absolutely. And there was another film that he did that I forgot that was his. But you know, you touched upon the 70s filmmakers and the reality of things. We still haven't had that. We had a little bit with Tarantino and Rodriguez in the mid to late 90s. They were onto something, but we're due. We're really due for.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we kind of want to pretend that the underbelly of society doesn't exist anymore, and people would rather. I mean, I don't really understand it, but I understand the impulse of everybody having a voice and everybody, you know, being nice to everybody. And I think that's true. I think we do need that. But also there's an unreality to life in that now everybody expects, like, if you want to lead your life a certain way and you want to declare you're a certain kind of a person, people are expected, there are people that now then expect you to accept their reality that they've decided to live. And so you're now you're expected to join in with someone else's fantasy life, whatever that may be, however that may manifest itself. And it's like, I don't understand where that comes from. Like, why am I expected? You can lead your life however you want. I'm all about that. but don't necessarily expect me to participate in whatever it is that you're doing. And I find that odd. I find that why do people like, I would never expect somebody to like what I like or do what I do or live the way I expect them to live. And now we live in a world where there's a lot of people that do. And I don't know where, like, I'm like, let's instate the draft again. Let's draft everybody at 18 and make select. And by the way, that's coming. If you look at what's going on in the world now and where our military readiness is at, I give it 4 to 5 years. There will be a mandatory draft in the United States.
I mean, there's a lot of countries that have mandatory military time.
And I'll tell you something, that will straighten out the country very quickly.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to watch. Oh, we'll give you a safe space.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But did you read what happened? Like the multiple ships, Chinese and Russian ships off the Aleutian Islands this weekend?
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, did not. You know, I was too distracted by LIZZO.
Yeah, unbelievable.
We actually had Dad over and we barbecued, and then we actually went out and bowled and got to celebrate a friend's child's birthday, which I think is just as important, right? You gotta get out there in the world. But I did do a quick live stream yesterday in regards to this LIZZO thing, in regards to take responsibility for when we fuck up,
right?
And how do you make amends? And are you gonna learn from this, right? Because let's just say she is responsible for what happened, right? All the bad behavior. Okay, you have this huge fan base. How can you make it better? How can you positively influence those kids, teens, 20-year-olds, which is which is the next, these kids that we want to become better citizens? How can you positively influence them from your mistakes? Because I'm not like, I don't need to tell bad jokes and all that stuff, Rob. I'm like, where can we learn from this, especially when people have so much influence nowadays?
Well, I mean, you read some of the accounts of what went on, and because I read a lot about this, I was very curious about all this, especially because there was that filmmaker, the female filmmaker that was going to do a documentary about LIZZO, and she quit after a few weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a woman of color, a filmmaker, documentarian, fairly accomplished, and she said, "There's no way I can't be treated this way," and she quit.
What?
Yeah, yeah, and the dancers. I mean, it happens with. It's really difficult in this day and age. Hubris, ego. It's just the entertainment business, and especially, everyone gets inflated senses of self-importance, and I think it's a danger. You see it over and over and over again, and what you want is, it's such a privilege to be able. And LIZZO, look at how many people look up to her, and millions of people look up to her, and she was able to accomplish what she was able to accomplish was amazing.
Very talented, very
talented, and it's amazing, and standing as a beacon for body positivity and all of that. But when you find out that people are only human, and people get caught up in the kind of thing, I mean, look, here's the real problem that I've seen over and over again. It's when people forget that they're running a business, and they turn it into something else. And it's like, if for anybody watching, if you get rich and famous, always remember it's a business. And the way you treat people and what you say and what you do is all part of that business. And when you forget that, when you think that you're above that, that's when trouble can start. And I think sometimes, and it's hard, when you become rich and famous and everybody wants a piece of you, it's easy to forget who you are as a person. And it's easy to forget that the people that work with you are business people too. And a lot of people are there to do work. I mean, it's a job. They're your employees. They're not your acolytes. They're not your believers.
Not your cult.
They're not your cult. They're your employees. And people need to remember, when you have employees, you have to treat them like employees. Otherwise, if you're people tend to forget, well, you better do what I say. There's social media, honey. If you know, then and that's what people, and there are a lot of celebrities that I know that are very good about that. You know, you hear from people that you know, are really good about running their businesses, and I think it's great. And I think, you know, to be in a privileged position like where Lizzo's at, and maybe again, when these things go awry, it can be a teachable moment. Hopefully she'll step up and you know, do the right thing and apologize. And, you know, that's another thing. We everyone loves a good apology, and we love a good, when you see people trying to change.
Absolutely.
You know?
If it's coming from a place of gratitude and humility and authenticity, which is what I got from the De La Hoya documentary, and I'm gonna do a review on that. We were absolutely blown away. And you know what they have in common is that with any celebrity that gets as big as they get in their own, whether it's music, film, or sports, you believe everything people are telling you, that you're the greatest,
right?
You can do anything.
It's really difficult to navigate those waters.
Where your own family can't tell you no, like it's very, very crazy. And what I loved in the De La Hoya story was that his children who have grown up, they're the ones who are telling him, Dad, no, Dad, get help. I was like blown away.
Yeah.
And you know, he's, you know, and I think it's an unfinished story there, but, and I'll get into in my review, but I was really really impressed with the storytelling.
And it was cool that he raised kids that were able to do that.
Well, he didn't raise them.
Well,
that's the whole thing. But he's made amends, and he's trying, and that goes a long way. And I would love if Lizzo can own this and make amends, and you know, take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but real fast, we're here with Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks for being here, buddy. Hey, it's me in HD for $199. Sorcerer, epic film, epic soundtrack. I love it. Rest in peace.
Sorcerer. So what's really interesting? So Sorcerer was the movie that Friedkin made after The Exorcist. So he won an Academy Award for French Connection. Mm-hmm. Then he made The Exorcist. Then Sorcerer was a passion project of his. It's a remake of Henri Clouzot's The Wages of Fear. And it was a passion project of his, and he put everything he had into it. They were out there filming in the jungle. It went over budget. It was crazy. It's Roy Scheider stars in it. It's an amazing film, and it came out the same week as a movie that some people you might not remember this movie, but it came out the same week as Sorcerer. It's a movie called Star Wars.
You're kidding me.
No.
Oh my God.
And it was buried. And so here you have, and you know, talk about Willian Friedkin had a monster ego too. They called him Hurricane Billy because he had a tendency to get angry. And
sure,
you know, these guys, when you've won an Academy Award and then you follow that up with The Exorcist, you know, you had a little bit of an ego, and he wanted things the way he wanted them, and he was larger than life. And you know, he worked his way up. You know, and he worked in making documentaries for news organizations and things like that. He started in the mailroom, and then he made 3 feature films that were not, you know, not the greatest. They were good movies, but they didn't make a lot of money.
They didn't move the dial for him.
No, and it wasn't until, you know, and it was really interesting when he got, this is so weird. So when he was going to make The French Connection, the first person, it says it in this article, I think, the Hollywood Reporter, he hired Jimmy Breslin, who was a famous columnist in New York, this very salt of the earth kind of guy, and to star in The French Connection. And then Jimmy Breslin like freaked out and disappeared. So Friedkin had to they hired Gene Hackman, and he wanted the casting people to get a different actor, and they thought he meant Fernando Rey, this other actor, and he thought that Fernando Rey was totally wrong. And when they were making French Connection, he thought the whole thing was going to blow up in his face, and it ended up not. You know, it became a stone classic, and he won Best Director at the Academy Awards for that movie.
And I didn't know that part about Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, that's the best. So Friedkin was directing an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Because he came out of the documentary world, he didn't wear a tie to set, and Hitchcock gave him shit for not wearing a tie to the set, because Hitchcock was he's a very natty dresser, always dressed in suits. And then when Friedkin won the Academy Award for French Connection in 72, and I'm like, was Frenzy 72? I don't know if Hitchcock was nominated, but he walked by Alfred Hitchcock at the Academy Awards and said something to the effect of, "How do you like the tie, Hitch?" You know, as he's getting his Oscar.
That's brilliant.
And by the way, Alfred Hitchcock never won an Oscar for directing. He got an honorary Oscar, but he made 53 feature films.
That is
never got an Oscar for directing.
So North by Northwest, Rear Window,
Psycho, Vertigo.
You kidding
Catch
me?
a Thief, never won for directing. Stanley Kubrick never won a directing Oscar either. And they're two of my favorite.
You know which one I really liked
directors.
that Kubrick said? Barry Lyndon.
Dude, movie's a masterpiece. Where's the 4K? I love that movie. That movie's so entertaining.
You know, when was it HBO or on TV? Their programming used to be just really just deep, and that's why I discovered Barry Lyndon. Like they would play it like every damn day or something like that.
It's so great, and he shot that movie. A lot of that movie he shot in candlelight, like actual candlelight. So he had special lenses made. He got these lenses from NASA that were satellite lenses, and he had them reconfigured to work on a camera because he wanted to be able to shoot in real candlelight. And what's really interesting about Barry Lyndon, the way he shot Barry Lyndon was, so he used these really long zooms, and like he would start on someone's face, like somebody just looking over a bridge. And as the camera pulled out, it went from being a close-up or a medium shot of somebody into a tableau that you would see in a museum in, say,
like
France.
A painting, right?
Yeah, like a painting.
I feel that they really
It was incredible.
started that in the 70s. What you talked about, was that Kubrick who really started that?
Well, yeah, I mean, Kubrick was the first person that did. I mean, Friedkin was different. Like what Friedkin did, when I always say verisimilitude, documentary style, one of the things about Friedkin that made The Exorcist and French Connection and Sorcerer so visceral is he shot those movies like he was shooting a documentary. So like there's a story when there's a moment in French Connection where they're coming out of a place, and Owen Roizman was across the street shooting at them coming out of this door. And Owen Roizman, the cinematographer who also shot The Exorcist, said, "Okay, well, what direction are the actors going to go when they come out the door?" And Friedkin said, "I'm not going to tell you." Because what he wanted was Owen Roizman. He wanted that, I mean, now it's overused, you know, shaky cam or whatever.
Sure.
But when you're shooting a documentary, you know, you're running and gunning. It's like when you watch combat photography in Vietnam that was shown to audiences during dinner time in the 60s and 70s. So that's why Spielberg used that kind of style at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan. You know, that shaky cam adds that reality to what you're looking at. And so Friedkin use that kind of filmmaking, that documentary where you're not just necessarily on sticks or on a dolly, you're handheld, or you know, because he wanted to create that immediacy in the frame.
I got that too a little bit. Definitely that doc film and some of those shots that you're talking about with all the President's Men.
Yeah, they did that absolutely.
What was his name? Alan
Pakula.
Pakula, yeah.
Pakula was great because he made thrillers like Clute and the Parallax View.
Clute was scary.
And the Parallax View was basically proto X-Files. And you know, the X-Files was Chris Carter was heavily influenced by the conspiracy thrillers of the 70s, whether it was All the President's Men, Parallax View, 3 Days of the Condor, Marathon Man. All of that was
Kolchak.
Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Darren McGavin even came back and played a character in X-Files that
was a great episode.
may have been, may have been Kolchak.
Yeah,
but it
great
was
episode.
It was great. Yeah, man, that was good stuff.
Okay, let's hit these two, then we're almost. Robert, can you give a brief?
Oh, that's a good question.
Curricula vitae. I know him from YouTube and Star Trek stuff, but
yeah,
not
I mean,
much else.
So when I got out of film school in the late 80s, early 90s, I worked. The first thing I ever did was I worked on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 as an art department production assistant. And then right after that, I went to work at Warner Brothers for a couple of years, working for Bill Young, who was the senior vice president of physical production. And that department oversaw the physical production of all movies that were made. So when I was there, they made wonderful movies like Bonfire of the Vanities or Nothing But Trouble or Clint Eastwood's The Rookie. But what was amazing were Gremlins 2, Joe versus the Volcano, Defending Your Life. I mean, I was on the sets. Anything that was shooting at Warner Brothers, I could go on the set and hang out, and was working for him. And it was incredible. And then in the early 90s, I worked. Then when I left there because I had production experience, I went and worked for a makeup effects company called Altarian Studios, Tony Gardner's Altarian Studios, and working on things like Dark Man and the Swamp Thing TV series and Army of Darkness, which I got credits on. So Army of Darkness, I think my credit is makeup effects assistant or something. And then from there, I went to Full Moon Entertainment that made like the Puppet Master movies, and I edited I edited this movie, re-edited with Peter Billingsley, the kid from A Christmas Story. We edited a movie called Arcade. It was about kids getting sucked into a video game. And then I began in the mid 90s.
Why does it sound familiar?
People have seen it. It's a lot of people love that movie. But then I worked at both like CAA and William Morris reading screenplays for a living. And at the same time, I was editing low budget movies that no one's ever heard of. But that's where I learned production and post-production and things like that. And then I wrote and directed my first feature in 98 called Free Enterprise. It's out of print now. It's really hard to see. But it stars William Shatner and Eric McCormack. And it became kind of a cult film. So that was fun. But it didn't make any money, so I didn't get to direct anything again. And then I bought the screenplay for Agent Cody Banks, and so I was a co-producer of Agent Cody Banks and its sequel. But then at that time, I started working on special features for movies, and I worked for Disney. I made a feature-length documentary on the making of Tron. But then I went to New Zealand and worked on Lord of the Rings for a number of years, working on the appendices, the 10-hour documentaries that are on the extended versions of Lord of the Rings. And I worked on X-Men and X2, Chronicles of Narnia. We were in New Zealand again for another 14 months. I was on Superman Returns for a year in Australia and made a 3-hour documentary on the making of that movie, which I'd love to one day revisit because I shot 1,500 hours of footage. And then
Star Trek too, right?
And then Star Trek was later. So what happened so then I produced a horror film for Warner Brothers called The Hills Run Red, and Joel Silver, who produced the Lethal Weapon movies and Die Hard. I produced a movie that I developed with my buddy Dave Parker, and did that. And then when we were done with that, we tried to make a sequel to Free Enterprise and lost our funding 2 days before shooting. But then I spent 3 years making documentaries about the Star Trek: The Next Generation. So they were restoring it to high def because it didn't exist in high def. So I spent 3 years making those documentaries, and then I went back to film editing, and I edited a couple of movies, a Lifetime movie, a movie called Paradox, and then most recently I produced a feature film called Tango Shalom that I also edited, that you can see on Peacock and Amazon. It's kind of an old school comedy. Your grandparents would love it. And I'm just finishing up another feature that I produced called The White Devils, that's based on a South African playwright's play. And I have.
But you also did Dota, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's funny because I don't. Yeah, so during the pandemic, I edited 3 seasons of an animated series for Netflix called Dota: Dragon's Blood. It's really funny because I did that here. I finished Tango Shalom here, sitting in the old Rob Observatory before I moved.
Yeah.
And so everything I do is kind of here. So that kind of brings you up to speed. And right now I'm working on, I have 2 scripts that I would love to make, that I want to direct, that I've written. And then I'm working on a dramatic podcast based on a famous mystery writer's character. And we're developing that. What's cool about that is you get to direct act, because podcasts like Jessica Chastain, she's starring in a new science fiction podcast. And if you listen to the Sandman podcast, it's fucking
pretty good.
awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. And so we would be doing a series of podcasts, and I don't like to call them podcasts because to me they're radio dramas.
It's radio. Right.
Yeah, because I used to I listened to CBS Radio Mystery Theater growing up, but now these dramas are becoming the basis for movies.
Yep.
So it's almost like a trial by fire, and I think we're going to crowd once it's announced who I'm working with, pretty big writer, and I'm trying to lock in an actor that if I can get this actor, for me personally, it would just be really cool because I really am this person hasn't worked in a long time, but starred in couple of my favorite things, and I would just love to bring him back into the fold because he's fucking awesome, and if we can announce it, it would be great. So I've done a lot of, it's weird because I've done a lot of, I haven't become rich and famous, but I've had a lot of fun. Like, I'm really proud of all the work that I've done because I'm a nerd, and I was always a fan, but I've been able to work. I mean, like, I saw Return of the King for the first time in Peter Jackson's house. He showed it to us.
What? Wait, hold on.
So
hold on. Don't say that. Don't say that fast. Repeat yourself, sir.
So we were down. So what happened, how it worked was the Lord of the Rings movies were released. The theatrical version was released. And basically, when they came out in theaters, we started working on the extended versions of the Lord of the Rings movies that would come out a year later at Christmas, right before the next Lord of the Rings movie came out. So this company that I was working for, Curdy Pellerin, that we did all the DVDs for Disney, like the original DVDs. Like, I worked on the Fantasia anthology. I worked on Emperor's New Groove, Tron, making documentaries. And at the time, Disney was spending a lot of money on these documentaries. And then we were awarded, the company was awarded the Lord of the Rings gig for New Line, which was insane.
Very cool.
So we would start, and we would have a year to do the documentaries for each movie. So, and all the audio commentaries. So I was busy during Fellowship. I worked on some of it. Like, I was doing interviews for Fellowship, and I did edit 2 pieces that are on the appendices. But for Two Towers, I went to New Zealand for months at a time, and we were interviewing, like, every day. We were recording audio commentaries, and they were shooting Return of the King. Return of the King hadn't come out yet, so it was crazy. Like, there was one time when I went to the Alex Funke was the miniature photographer, and they called them bigatures, not miniatures. And they were shooting Minas Tirith, the White City, and they were shooting a POV shot of a fell beast, like that the Witch King of Agmar would rode
the beast, right?
And so they had this snorkel camera, the snorkel cam that would a single shot, like, and I'm just sitting there watching this camera because it was so mesmerizing, and there was a bridge on the model. And the camera's on a rig, so it's down like this, and then the camera's down here.
Okay.
So the rig is bringing the camera
closer
and closer to the bridge. But if it keeps going, it's just going to smash through the bridge. And out of nowhere, I'm like watching, like, there's nobody around. I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, somebody's in the control room watching this, and like with at the last second, somebody just this wind just comes behind me. Somebody grabs the bridge and takes it away, and the camera kept going to get the shot. And the guy comes back and puts the bridge in place. And it was like, that's what it was like. It was magic.
That is
and
awesome.
They were, at the same time, they were shooting Master and Commander, the movie Master and Commander.
Film, yeah.
And they had built in Weta they had built these like quarter scale models of the two main ships in the movie, Captain Aubrey's ship. And people, it was like the masts were 40 feet high on these miniatures. So you'd have people 40 feet in the air on the top. Yeah. And then they took those things out into Wellington Harbor. And because they had like real metal, they had cannons on them and they were shooting the miniature, the bigature battles and stuff. So we hadn't seen Return of the King. And so one night, you know, we get a call from Peter's assistant and he's like, well, come on over to the house. We went into his screening room in his house and he sits us down and it was us, our DVD team and a couple of other people that hadn't seen the movie. And it was a very early cut that they had to show to the New Zealand tax board and stuff. It was a lot of shenanigans at the government level. And we sat down and watched it in his house. And it was in a really rough form. None of the effects were done. But it was crazy. You could see it was going to be great, even in that rough form. And it was just magical being down there because we were documenting all these people that had already made, you know, magic with Fellowship. And it was nuts. I mean, it was crazy.
What was your reaction? Like, how did you feel after you saw, even though you knew it was a rough cut, but by then you know, this was,
I'll tell you, the
third film.
Yeah, it was the first, like, we got the job doing Lord of the Rings and nobody knew if it was going to be good or not.
Right.
So in the May, I guess this would be May of 2001, they showed this 20-minute reel at the Cannes Film Festival. And that was the first time anyone would have seen essentially finished footage from Lord of the Rings. And we were dying to see it. We're like, how can we? Because, you know, here we are starting the process of documenting this movie. And we're like, we hope it's good. And back then, because they made all three movies at once, people didn't know. So we were invited down to the New Line Cinema screening room. So we go down to New Line, the offices right off Beverly, on Beverly and Robertson. And
exactly where,
yeah. And so we go in this room, you know, we're all sitting there going, well, I hope it's good because we have to work on these for the next 3 years or whatever.
It's always a scary thing.
And those 20 minutes had the Mines of Moria sequence, you know, right, that ends with the Balrog and you shall not pass.
Right.
I have to tell you, like, I hadn't seen anything like that. There's been a few times obviously Star Wars blew my mind when I saw it because there was nothing like that. When I saw Jurassic Park for the first time and seeing photorealistic dinosaurs, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, it was incredible. The Matrix. I went and saw The Matrix at a screening at Warner Brothers. I was like, is this going to be like Johnny Mnemonic again? I mean, Keanu Reeves and some cyber thriller. What is this? And nobody knew anything about The Matrix. You know, nobody knew what it was. So there was a bunch of industry people before the movie had opened, and everyone's kind of jaded. Oh, this movie's going to suck. And we go in there, and dude, when he takes the red pill, you know, or the blue pill, the red pill, whichever it was, the red pill he takes, and he wakes up and you realize he's a battery and all of humanity is trapped. I have to tell you, I'm normally ahead of movies plot wise. My mind was, I didn't see that coming. I'm trying to follow this movie going, I know something's weird. I don't quite know what's going. It was, I mean, you could feel the whole audience knew that they'd just seen something. And then we hadn't even got to the whole guns and the helicopters and all the stuff that happens at the end. I mean, we had that because you hadn't seen Bullet Time yet. And even that, but plot wise, having the rug pulled out, I was like, man, this was dope. Well, seeing that Mines of Moria sequence 2 years later, that was the same thing. Seeing the scope of it, because fantasy, people forget now. Everyone takes fantasy for granted because it's everywhere. Right. But from the 80s on, there weren't a lot of great. You know, there was like Dragon Slayer that had a great stop motion. The Vermithrax Pejorative, the dragon, that was 81, and Excalibur was cool. But then we got a lot of things like Krull, and fantasy films were not. Willow
Conan was decent.
Conan was really the only one, but that was less. That had less like flying dragons, and even though James Earl Jones turns into a snake, it was much more grounded and brutal. Conan was like the best fantasy film up until Lord of the Rings.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah,
that was
that's
20
good.
years later. And it was
Yep.
because, and it was really grounded in reality. I mean, Milius,
You see that Arnold documentary?
yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Showing the sword from Conan and stuff. I love that.
I
But
love
then,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
with Lord of the Rings, when you saw all that stuff put together,
hmm
and it was just, we walked out of that screen going, that was fucking. I mean, it was, and we were so hyped.
You know,
We're like, oh my God.
yeah. Going back to the Matrix, I mean, I saw it in the theater, but at that time, everyone was Phantom Menace, and then
Yeah.
right, because that was the most hyped movie ever at the time, guys.
Yeah.
Ever.
By the way, in the chat, Sander mentions Legend. Yeah, Ridley Scott's Legend was cool, and I still think has some of the greatest makeup effects ever done. The problem is, you know, that movie with there was two different versions of it. There's the European version with Jerry Goldsmith's score that's a half an hour longer, and it wasn't awesome. It's a beautiful piece of work, but it didn't engage people, I think, the way you wanted
me
to.
Yeah,
I mean, I liked it.
Not like Dragon Slayer or Excalibur. I mean, Excalibur. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dragon Slayer and Excalibur and they came out the same year. And then, but there were other things like people are bringing up Lady Hawk. But even people forget now that when Lady Hawk came out, because the Alan Parsons score, like I loved Lady Hawk, and that was directed by Richard Donner. And at the end of the movie, where Navarre and Michelle Pfeiffer's characters see each other, Isabeau, man, I cry every time. You get to the end of Lady Hawk, you know, and she says Navarre. Yeah, and you can't you cry, man. Matthew Broderick's crying. John Wood, the evil priest, is crying. Everyone's crying.
I haven't seen that in years, man.
Oh, it's great. But you know,
let's run through these real quick for you. The DVD of Enterprise, free Enterprise, goes for $67.66. There's one copy left.
And make sure there's two different DVDs of Free Enterprise. What you want is the 2-disc Anchor Bay edition. The 5-year mission extended edition. So
Tom Jr. Jackson, who's your man, your dude.
Yeah.
For $5. Thank you, Tom. Just showing some support. Good to see you and Rob up to some shenanigans. We love talking this stuff, man.
We always try and elevate the discourse. You know,
we have to. I mean, that's what I'm. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah. Hey, it's me in HD, $1.99. Love you, RMB, modern trilogy that can match up to Lord of the Rings. Ooh.
Well, I mean, I think with the thing about Lord of the Rings is it's a literary masterpiece. So you had Philippa Fran and Peter, they did make changes. And if you're a Lord of the Rings purist, I mean, people are still screaming about Tom Bombadil not being in the franchise.
Correct.
And doing things like snowboarding down the steps at Helm's Deep with Legolas firing,
surfing,
or you know, or coming off the Mama Kill, or was the Mama Kill, the horn, you know. But those, it's a movie, you know. And to me, I think that and the big thing that people complain about is the scouring of the Shire. So if you haven't read the books, haven't read Lord of the Rings, at the end of that movie, when it's all is said and done, the One Ring is destroyed. The hobbits get back to the Shire, and Saruman and Grima Wormtongue, who isn't dead, have taken over the Shire and turned it into an industrialized nightmare. And that was how the book ended. I mean, they come back and they're defeated, but you can't end a 3-movie series with the scouring of the Shire. You have to have it end with the 10 endings they gave it to give the audience catharsis, you know. And so I mean, they get mad. And the thing about the scouring of the Shire is, if you're a Tolkien fan, Tolkien really saw the industrialization of England and of the modern age, because he'd seen the horrors of World War I. So a lot of what was in Lord of the Rings was a cautionary tale about keeping the ecology and not destroying your forests, and hopefully the beautiful English countryside that he loved and adored so much would be preserved. And people forget that about Lord of the Rings, that it was amongst the many things it was a cautionary tale, like, let's not destroy the environment, everybody. Why don't we not do that? And so I get why some people, but the 3 books gave them a structure. And it's going to be like an original movie trilogy. The problem with the way movies are conceived, I'll tell you something. I do believe that Denis Villeneuve has the potential with Dune to make but I will say this. I loved what he did with Dune, but it's cut to the bone. The scenes are cut to the bone, even though people say, oh, Dune's slow. But in terms of the verisimilitude of it all, it's amazing. I just wish that each movie was 4 hours long so the scenes could play.
Yeah.
I feel that the truncated nature of each scene makes the movie whip along, and then it becomes really slow. Like the latter 30 minutes of that movie kind of moves like molasses, but I love it anyway because it's such an amazing feat. But when people realize, if you haven't read Dune and you don't know where that story goes, people are like, oh, Paul Atreides is just another white savior. Oh, no, he's not. And if they actually do a third movie, if they do Dune Messiah, and I'd always heard that was the plan to do what was it originally was going to be Dune Prophet, and then Dune Messiah, which is the second Dune book. He's certainly not a white savior.
No. Billions
of people die, and it's awesome. And I think that it's not awesome that billions of people die, but it's in the context of Dune, it is. And I would love to see them do that. And I think it has the potential. But an original movie trilogy, I just don't know.
So those two examples, guys, were books, adaptations, film adaptations from novels. But everyone, from you, I know you did this retrospective with Gary on Lord of the Rings. Was it 20th anniversary? You guys did a stream. It's considered the greatest film trilogy. But
yeah, I think
how about original? Yeah.
Well, I think what's really the thing about Lord of the Rings that also had never been done before it was originally shot. All three movies were shot at once. Now they also went back and they called them pickups, but they shot for another 2 months on each one of those movies because they had to fill things in. They didn't get everything, but still, it was a monumental achievement. And I don't know if that'll ever be done again. I think what we need to see, and I would have thought that the Star Wars sequel trilogy would have been done this way. For Disney spending $4 billion, I would have thought that a new Star Wars, and I don't want this to be a Star Wars sequel bashing thing, but I really think they should have done that like they did Lord of the Rings. They should have written 3 very interconnected scripts that were telling a huge story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And we knew what that story was before they started shooting. And they could have gone in and shot it all at once and spent the time, like with Lord of the Rings, in post-production, making sure the movies were perfect. But it was kind of done willy-nilly because the studios, it seems silly now, but they're adverse to that kind of risk. But if you've already spent $4 billion on Star Wars and you're going to make another trilogy, why not take a page from Lord of the Rings book and follow that? Write 3 airtight scripts. Yeah, and you have to get people. I mean, the difference too is that, look, at the time, everybody wanted to make a Star Wars movie, but not everyone's as passionate as this. You need somebody like Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens wrote those 3 movies together.
Yeah.
And that's why you had these 3 creative minds that knew Tolkien backwards and forwards and also knew how to make movies. And then they had the entirety of New Zealand behind them. So it was really a passion. It was the biggest passion project I think ever made in Hollywood history.
They had a lot of magic running.
A lot of magic
working for that one. You could say the same thing for the original Star Wars films.
That's true. And even with the Star Wars movies, George Lucas, he didn't want to do Empire. It took so much out of him to direct Star Wars, and they were pioneering. They were pioneering effects work that had never been done before, like computer-assisted blue screen work where the motion control camera could duplicate movements so they could shoot the models in those dynamic ways. No one had ever been able to do that before. And I think now, I mean, it's incredible to me now that you read that a TV show like Citadel, that Netflix, a 6-episode show like Citadel costs $300 million. For 6 40-minute
report also like the Accolade is $250 million or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that because a science fiction show that's set at a different time, they have to build everything new. Everything has to be built from scratch. But yeah, I think they need to. You would think that they would be able to produce these shows cheaper. And
Well, we were
I don't know.
We were big fans of Andor. And
Yeah,
that was a beautiful vision look.
I was a huge fan of Andor.
I don't know how expensive that was, but that's probably the best Star Wars we've gotten.
Well, and what's interesting is you had an auteur, you know, the director of that wrote and directed Michael Clayton. He's an Academy Award winning screenwriter.
Mm-hmm.
He had his two brothers helping him in editing the show and directing. And so it was a family affair. And I think that of all the Star Wars shows, it had a singular creative vision that they adhered to. And I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but what I thought was so cool about that show is it really, like, all we ever saw with the Empire was like the higher ups, you know, Vader, the Emperor, Tarkin. But what we saw was the low level functionaries that made sure that the Empire worked from day to day. And then you also got to see why people were rebelling in the first place.
I loved it.
Absolutely. And it was, I mean, it wasn't the zip zap pow of space opera that we'd normally get from Star Wars, but I think it added a layer of seriousness, and it really explored, because again, like all great science fiction, it had a lot to say about us today and how our government entities can abuse the citizenry. And I thought that it was beautifully done, beautifully told, and it was perhaps, I know a lot of Star Wars fans wanted something different from it, but it showed that we could have really rich, thoughtful, upscale storytelling within the Star Wars universe. And it felt like it was of a piece. You knew that the people that made it were all on the same page. And it gave us characters. I mean, it still gave us, like, when Luthen took on that Star Destroyer. I mean, that was awesome. You know, and you still had the intrigue with Mon Mothma having to pretend she was one thing, and it was if you like your John le Carré spy thrillers and all that, I was like, this is dope. I loved it. I mean,
I think it's something now that maybe if you OG Star Wars fans were just so turned off from Disney Star Wars, I get it. This is where I would go back though and give it it's definitely worth a rewatch. Seth for $5. He's a member of the channel. Does RMB read comics? I'm curious about Ed Brubaker and Brian K. Vaughan breaking into Hollywood as writers. And he also had said this earlier. The amazing Brubaker and Phillips superhero noir comic Incognito was optioned in 2016 from Fede Alvarez, attached as a director. I can't find recent news on it. Guessing it's been shelved. Anyone?
Well, both Brian Vaughan and Ed Brubaker, first of all, are great comic writers. And yes, you can't really see, but like if you go below me and you look over here, this entire layer of shelving all around me, 13 like IKEA is all big. It's all if you I want to lean like this level, if you looked, it's all hardcovers, and below it is all DC Absolute editions. I've been moving stuff around here because I'm gonna move my.
You've been alphabetizing.
I've been alphabetizing all my, but yeah. So there's a lot of great comic writers, and I think good comic writing does lend itself to screenwriting, because like Brian K. Vaughan went on, and I believe he wrote on Lost. You know, and then Ed Brubaker, you know, he did the whole Winter Soldier run that the movie was based on. Now he didn't work on the movie, but he did write that whole, and I think there's like 3 different Marvel omnibuses that deal with the whole Winter Soldier saga that goes into Secret Invasion and goes into Dark Avengers. So right now I'm obsessed with getting through all of the Hickman era. I don't know if you guys read X-Men, but the Hellfire Gala this year,
Hellfire Club,
the Hellfire Club, the Hellfire Gala though, it's like the Met Gala.
They have a gala where you go as dressed up as Hellfire members.
Well, it's the mutants. The mutants go to this Hellfire Gala that they put on.
That's right. I remember. Thank you.
All I can say is, so I was bored of superhero comics. You know, and then all the identity politics and superhero comics, I was like, okay, I get it. I mean, I understand and I appreciate the effort being put into this, but what you're doing is you're literally destroying the people that you're destroying your fan base. But on the other hand, the Hickman era and a lot of people hate it. A lot of people hate what Hickman did to the X-Men. I read X-Men for 40 years. So to me, I've already read, the X-Men are like Star Trek to me. I love the X-Men. And as a matter of fact, right behind me, I was just, this is so ridiculous, but I was putting my X-Men omnibuses in order from the hardcovers beginning with Giant Size X-Men 1 and going all the way through like X-Men 500 and putting in all the different because I have all these X-Men omnibuses in order. So I could sit, because one day I'm going to sit down and just read them all in order again.
Wow.
So I like, where does House of M go? And where does the X-Force go? And Rob Liefeld's like, they're introduced in 91. So they have to, it's just crazy. But the Hickman era of X-Men and the Hellfire, by the way, it's a $9 comic book. Like
was that era like issues? Was that like before the hundreds?
Which
was
one?
that around 100?
The Hickman era, they renumbered it. It started like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So
I'm thinking.
So
okay,
they did a whole crazy sci-fi weird revamp of the X-Men.
You recommend it?
I loved it. Reading House of X and Powers of X. Not all of it's great. A lot of people can't stand it. It was too extreme, but it's so bizarre and weird and sci-fi. It's right up my alley
as well.
So and where they left it, like I haven't ended reading a comic book, like I think the last time a comic book surprised me as much as this one did was all the way back in the mid 80s when I was reading Watchmen for the first time. Now because people have seen the movie and the new TV show, but when I never, your Watchmen, when it was coming out, Alan Moore was coming off of Swamp Thing and V for Vendetta, and he'd written all these great comics. And Watchmen, he'd taken all the Charlton characters because they wouldn't let him use the character. They wouldn't let him use Blue Beetle, and they wouldn't let him use Captain Atom because they just bought all these. So he just made analogous characters like Night Owl and Dr. Manhattan. So when I got to you're reading when Watchmen was coming out on a monthly basis, and you get to the end of Watchmen 11, where it's revealed who the villain is, which is, spoiler alert, Ozymandias, and this has all been his plan all along. And he has the great moment. He's talking to Dan Dreiberg, he's talking to Night Owl, and he's like, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, I'm not some Republic serial villain, Dan. And he was referring to in the movie, he says comic book villain, but in the comic book, he said Republic serial, referring back to the 1940s serials that like Raiders of the Lost Ark was based on. He goes, I'm not some Republic's. Already I was shocked. I was shook that he was the villain. And he starts monologuing and he is explaining his plan and as a comic book reader, I'm like, well, of course they're going to stop him now. And he goes, I'm not some Republic serial villain, Dan. If do you think that I would have explained my master stroke to you if there was any hope of you affecting its outcome? And he says, I did it 38 minutes ago, meaning he dropped this giant alien squid that he'd made up on New York City and killed millions of people. And what was amazing was I was reading this comic, and you turn the page to the last page of the comic, and you see the two faces of Rorschach and Dan Dreiberg, as if this bright light, it's a whiteout, and you see them, and then the rest of the panels just go to full on empty whiteness. And that was the end of Watchmen 11. And it was it's hard to explain to people that weren't reading Watchmen because everyone's already, you get the whole graphic novel and it's already considered, it's a classic. But reading it from the first time, when you didn't know, it was really dense, and you're following everything and puzzling over it and reading articles and Amazing Heroes about Watchmen or talking to your friends about it. You're like, who's the villain? What's really going on? And when it happened, I literally was sitting there. I was shocked. I was like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't know. I couldn't believe it. Well, what happens at the end of what happens all the way through the Hellfire Gala of X-Men just from a couple weeks ago was kind of like that. I was literally left at the end of the comic like, I mean, I never thought an old middle-aged man with one foot in the grave could pick up a comic and be staring at the end of the last page going, like, I was like, holy, like I couldn't,
Got you.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, they did not just do that on every level. On every level they could F with somebody, they did it. And I loved it. I loved them for it. I'm like, thank you. So,
Shelly Lee for $11. Thank you, Shelly Lee. You're a member of the channel. My favorite movie reveals Oz from The Wizard of Oz, The Matrix, The Beautiful Mind. Best way to introduce schizophrenia. Do you have other movie reveals?
The Sixth Sense. I
That
didn't
was
know.
great.
I
That
didn't
was
know.
great.
Well, I
That
didn't
was
know.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those questions that like I'll the answer will come to me in a couple hours.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
You know?
that's what I'm always looking for, to be. And nowadays we've seen so much.
Right.
We've seen everything, so we know. You know, we don't. There's not much left that we don't. We see. We always, because we always are looking for. Ooh, what's the twist going to be? M. Night Shyamalan's got a new movie coming out. What's the twist going to be? A Knock at the Cabin.
I'll figure it out. Right.
You know,
That was pretty good.
I liked it.
I
It was
liked
based
it a
on a
lot.
book. I read the book. The book is called The Cabin at the End of the World. And
Yeah,
I
Romy
read
read it.
Yeah, I read it in one sitting.
Oh, this is a good one. The usual stuff. That's a good one.
That's a good one. I did produce the special features for that, which you can now. All the special features are back now because Shout Factory re-released Usual Suspects on Blu-ray, or they put it out in 4K. Or no, not Shout Factory. Kino Lorber. Kino Lorber put it out in 4K, and they put all of our special features on it.
Boosh for $2. Would you prefer Jodorowsky? It's weird.
Yeah, no, that. By the way, that's a great documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune. I mean, I like Jodorowsky's movies. I like The Holy Mountain. I loved El Topo. I loved Santa Sangre. I just
saw that one in college.
Yeah, I'm a huge Jodorowsky fan. His Dune would have been amazing, but I don't know if it would have been good. It might have been.
You never know.
But yeah, it would have been. It definitely. I would have paid good money to see it. I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you guys so much for all the super chats. That was pretty awesome. You got some gold nuggets from RMB, some surprises there. I wrote some of these down, man. Some stuff I have to rewatch. I'm down for a new comic, so maybe I'll check that one out.
Well, the great thing about the X-Men, the Hickman era, is you can actually start it. There's a place you can start it, and he came out. You can get the hardcover, The House of X and Powers of 10. So you can just buy that, and it's got the opening of the Hickman X-Men run, and you can kind of go from there. So
okay, well, we're gonna take a quick little minute break, and that way Rob can take a little break. Then I'll come back. I'll bring you back in, and then let's talk about some movies that we like this year.
Oh yeah, and there's been some really good ones. Some that most people haven't seen.
No, I don't know. I know one off your list, and I mistook The Beast because I saw this really great French film. We'll get into it.
It is The Beast, French film about the couple.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think I've seen that actor in another film. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And I'll find the title of that film. Okay, so we'll take a break and then we'll come on back, guys. So thank you so much for the tips and everything. These videos are for you guys.
Nice. Hey, do a mariachi one.
Oh my god.
When I worked in East LA, I wound up in the gang unit.
We didn't call ourselves gang members. We were social clubs.
There's a difference between a guy who's commuting to work and a car that's cruising and looks like a shark.
We're talking about a whole new culture. We had our own slang. The calor was different.
Chicanas and Mexican-American women were sort of using American culture.
It wasn't just the way they dressed, it's the way they walk.
Streets ain't woke. You're gonna get shot and killed.
We're always different. We're going to be different. And this is just the way around.
That's part of us being Chicanos because that's what we went through.
American Homeboy, only in theaters this August and September. Los Angeles, Portland, Albuquerque, Tucson, Chicago, and San Francisco. Get your tickets now. AmericanHomeboy.com. The Latino Slant is sponsored by Gutierrez Law Firm, celebrating the independent spirit of Chicano and Latino music, art, and film. Se habla español. Se habla español. Paulie here on the Latino Slant. Thank you guys so much. Some amazing talk with Robert Meyer Burnett. We'll bring him back in here in a minute, and we're going to talk about our best films so far of this year. Some great films. A couple things. I want to thank everyone for their super chats. Thank you so much. We have a new Tío Grito there, the old man screaming. We always got to have a new Grito video. Also, too, you saw the trailer for American Homeboy. I am going this Thursday night to the world premiere here in Los Angeles. Me and Romy are going to go. We've been invited, and I'm looking forward to that. I will have an out of the theater quick review, and then I will do a more in-depth review. American Homeboy, it's a documentary basically in the last 100 years of Chicano and lowrider culture in the States. So he has gotten the filmmaker has gotten never seen before footage, including footage from the LAPD, which I cannot wait to see. It's pretty wild. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you are subscribed. We have still with us over 80 people. It's been fantastic. Slow and steady wins the race is here at the Latino Slant. From our members to our new people here, please make sure you are subscribed, and thank you. And we're gonna get to that because we're talking about our favorite films of the year, Kevin, and we will get to that movie. But right now, let's bring it back in. Got a little bit of a break. Rest the lungs, rest the vocal cords. La. You like that?
Oh, no, that was good. It's good.
Yeah. Usually we'll have the song. I now have a performance from the last couple of years. I'll break it up on our live streams and we'll throw it up as a retro dram. And it gives people a couple minutes to use the restroom, all that good stuff. Because I've been sitting on all this music archives. You know how I have all these people come on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of those are kind of my comics. You know what I mean? I just love music so much, man. Thank you so much for your time today, for hanging out.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this is great. It's we haven't done this in a while, so it's good to do it. And, it's nice not to be railing about Star Trek.
Listen, I see what you go through.
I mean,
a
lot of
my friends go through. I feel like I'm in the middle of that with Blue Beetle, because I'm like, cheering it on so much. I'm getting a lot of shit. I really don't care.
Well, I find it really interesting. I never want a movie to fail. And, Blue Beetle, they went with the Latino version of Blue Beetle, which I think is great that they did that. I mean, I'm a big Ted Kord fan. I'll be honest, because I love the Justice League version of it from the mid 80s that they introduced. But I think it's great that they're doing it. And I really hope, and it was a movie that was going to be on streaming, during production. They thought it was better than that. So they put more money into it and decided to give it a theatrical release.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you want it to succeed? I mean, I don't understand. Look at all the people, I'll tell you something. I didn't love the show as a whole, but I did love the family and the Miss Villani, who played Miss Marvel. Mon Villani is her name. I thought she was great. And I really liked the portrayal of her family in Miss Marvel. I thought the show had problems, but there was elements of it I really liked. And I saw a lot of that in the trailer. I love the familial aspect of Blue Beetle. And I think what's not to support? I mean, I don't ever want to get to the point where I hate something. I don't want to pre-hate something. I save my hatred for when I've seen it and I can't stand it.
Yeah, I think that's how I felt about Dial of Destiny this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was, look, Dial of Destiny, I didn't think was horrible, but it was to me, you know, here's what I don't understand. If you had a filmmaker that came and said, I've got this great idea, I'll give you an example of it. My favorite example of it is Ryan Coogler. I heard on NPR that he and his mother was either dying of cancer or it was bad. And him and his father would watch Rocky movies together to make themselves feel better.
Sure.
And he had an idea. He had an idea about Adonis Creed. And he went to Stallone. And after making Fruitvale Station, and great film, you know, really making his indie bones, he didn't want to come out and make some other indie movie. The guy had the cojones to go to Sly and say, I'd like to make a movie in your universe, and I would like to make you a supporting character in a new Rocky franchise. You know, and Stallone agreed, but you had a filmmaker that had an idea, had a passionate idea about a franchise and went and got it made. Now, I know that people like the Critical Drinker have very worthy criticisms of Creed, and I don't disagree with them, but I loved it. I love Creed. I love Michael B. Jordan. I've loved Michael B. Jordan since Friday Night Lights and The Wire. So I'm a huge Michael B. Jordan fan, and I loved Creed. But the point I was making is that Ryan Coogler was a filmmaker that had an idea to take these characters that have existed longer than Indiana Jones and do something with that universe. I mean, who would have ever thought that there would have been a Rocky spinoff that would have been as good as Creed? Much less we would have seen 3 movies, you know, and I love that. And if somebody went to Lucasfilm, you know, like David Fincher, and said, I have an idea to make an Indiana Jones movie, that to me would excite me. But when you have a corporation that wants to exploit, and I get it, they bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion and they want to make money off Indiana Jones. The problem is it was the corporation that decided to do it. And then they have to figure out, well, how do we hire people to go and figure out what's the story is and this, that, and the other thing. And filmmakers aren't going to say no. James Mangold's a great filmmaker.
Very good.
But if he had gone to Disney with his own idea,
with his own vision,
said, yeah, I've got an idea for Indiana Jones. What you want is that kind of passion. And that's true of any franchise. And I think that's the real problem with our franchises now is they're owned by these corporations. And they want to see.
Let me interrupt real quick. Creed, it's a great trilogy.
It is a great trilogy.
It's a great trilogy.
It is.
And you know, we're a big boxing household here, you know, and Romy, we finally got to see the last Creed. She's like, look, that's a really good film.
It was.
It's really hood. It's not Rocky, but it's really good. It's Michael B. Jordan's film. And you think about it. You think about the legacy of Rocky Balboa, right? With Creed 1 and 2. You couldn't have done it better. And he said goodbye at the end of Creed 2. He went to go be with his son and his grandson, the last living members, the next generations of Balboas. You know, you're good, Adonis. You're good. I don't even need to get in the ring now and celebrate with you. I'll see you later. I mean, come on, man. And then this third one was very, very personal, right? And then in regards to the characters of leaving a friend behind, betraying a friend, someone, you know, it's a fantastic movie, man. Fantastic relationships between the white. I mean, you talk about the Talia Shire Rocky. She was Tessa's character with him was just fantastic, brother.
Yeah. And you know, you have Michael B. Jordan being a first-time director, and he's a huge anime fan. And he found ways to bring in anime, you know, little Dragon Ball Z, whatever you want to call it, but in those fight scenes, which gave him like a unique, and he did some, you know, stylistic things when the audience falls away. He did some really interesting things that I really appreciated, because he's learned. Michael B. Jordan's been in the business for 20 years, you know, and he's worked on giant franchise properties. He worked on great shows like The Wire and Friday Night Lights, and he's had Andy working with Ryan Coogler starting out, and he's the kind of guy that you want to see rise up the ranks in the business, and I love seeing that.
And then of course with the Latino slant, he interjected Latino boxers in it, which great touch, touch in that last one. Yeah. So let's get into it, man. So we had talked, you talked about Indiana Jones. It's my biggest disappointment of the year because of those reasons that you said. Which, you know, I really love the first 20 minutes of the film. Yeah. And I think that's what made me mad, is that there was another 2 hours left.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, again, there was no joy in that movie.
No.
You know, the Indiana Jones franchise is, yes, it's thrilling, but it's also joyful. You know, there's constant joy in the characters and in the interplay, and even when the characters are poking fun at one another, it's still joyful. It puts a smile on your face. And this idea about, like, if I thought they took the wrong approach to Indiana Jones, like, speaking of Lord of the Rings, I've said this before, but he would be Gandalf. He would be like this crazy cracked wizard that all these archaeology students would go see. Like, they have him teaching to bored kids. Like, he wouldn't be that way. He'd be like, you're never going to believe what happened here, you know, and because he's now seen things that he knows, like when the astronauts are going to the moon, he's like, you're not going to believe what you find when you get there. You know, he would be like that dude, and we could all knowingly smile. And to turn him into this like beaten and demoralized person, you know, who'd lost his son and lost Marion and was, I mean, it's become such a trope to take our beloved characters when they get older and turn them into these sad sacks. They did the same thing in Picard season 1. You know, and it's to me, it's become lazy writing. Oh, we have an old character. Let's make him embittered. Luke Skywalker tosses his lightsaber behind him. You know, it's like, let's take all these great characters. And I'm like, it's not clever anymore. You're just copying what they did in every other movie with an old character. I hate that.
Yeah, I really it was a very frustrating watch. And I remember walking into the preview, because I went with Gore and we got on the Disney lot, and it was like that preview, you know, whatever. It fed us, and little did they know I'm a sober person, so they couldn't booze me up. They had 3 bars out there in front of the preview. I mean, it was a pretty nice layout, bro.
Wow.
I'd never seen that.
And that was before the movie?
And that's exactly what Gore said. You never see it before the movie.
No, you never see it before the movie. Well, you know what's really interesting is they showed this movie a month before in Cannes. They thought they had a monster hit.
Right.
They didn't know. And that's the problem, is the people in charge have a complete entire disconnect from the product that they're making.
Isn't that something?
And you're seeing this more and more and more at the studios. You see,
we've never seen this before.
No,
to this degree, and then they just don't learn.
And they don't. I mean, you know, there's been a lot of ink spilled over the last couple of months about Wall Street and this idea of constant growth. The movie business should never be about constant growth. The movie business should be about sustaining a level of excellence and quality control. So, you know, like streaming services, they thought, oh, we're going to have constant growth. Even then, it's like there's only so many households on planet Earth that can subscribe to your streaming service. And then you're running out of houses. So you don't have a finite the birth rates in a lot of Western countries have plummeted. So you can't expect you're going to have constant growth all the time. What you want is you want to sustain your subscribers. You don't want to lose 4 million subscribers. You want to be able to keep, but this is the problem, because Wall Street and the way everybody works now, profit. And I get it. Who doesn't want money?
Sure.
But you can't, when your product that you're selling is entertainment, movies and television, what's really important is to be steady. And if you look at the like Paramount has had a couple of times in the mid 70s, for instance, somebody showed me a newspaper that showed what Paramount had coming out in the in like 1974, Godfather 2, Chinatown, The Conversation. I mean, all these bangers, you know,
Robert Evans,
and you had a steady stream. And like in the late 80s, early 90s, they knew how to make, you know, thrillers and adult, whether it was Fatal Attraction or Hunt for Red October or whatever. Paramount knew the Indiana Jones movies. Paramount knew what kind of movies, and these movies didn't cost 100 or 200, or in the case of certain movies this summer, $300 million. And that to me shows that they have an over reliance on they have 2,000 people around the world doing the visual effects. And it's like, is that, if you're spending $300 million on a Raiders movie, what do you base that on?
Wow.
You know, the first, even adjusted for inflation, the first Raiders of the Lost Ark would have cost $60 million in today's dollars, and it would have grossed over $1 billion based on.
You're depressing me.
Well, no, but this is the thing. I think
but you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, and even Blue Beetle was made for 90, then they beefed it up a little bit. That's considered nothing nowadays, and that's a lot of money.
It's a lot. I mean, look at. Okay, you brought up, before I was on the show, you brought up Insidious 5. The Red Door, directed by one of the stars of the Insidious or the Conjuring. Patrick Wilson directed it. It's now the most successful. That film probably cost $20 million. It's gonna make $200 million.
Fletcher, can you find out Insidious? And he did say Andor cost $250 million as well.
Yeah, but because they were shooting all over Europe on real locations too. But
you could see that though. You saw that. That show was lush.
100%. But
yeah.
But you look at
Insidious.
Smile cost 17 million, made 200 million. But you look at that. That's in Hollywood. That's a huge win. The problem is it's not $1 billion. You go back to The Social Network. You know what? $1 billion isn't cool. You know what's cool? $1 billion. You know and that's where they're at now. But what you would want is, wouldn't you want as a studio to spend, if you could spend $20 million on a film and have each one of those movies make $200 million, and you made 10 movies for $20 million each. So you spent $200 million before advertising, but then have them each you're into the billions of dollars in profit, and you haven't had to lay out, you're never going to be in the red because you're not profligate spending. And it's like people don't know how to do that anymore. And you make good horror movies. Audiences are turning out, man.
Yeah,
they're turning out for good horror. You talked about Talk to Me. I mean, the guys who
made for $16 million. Fletcher, the Insidious,
$16 million. You know what, that franchise? James Wan went back to his horror roots when he made Insidious 1. It was made for less than $1 million. He went back.
Amazing.
He went back, and he did like what M. Night Shyamalan did. Shyamalama Ding Dong. After he made things like Lady in the Water. What the fuck was that movie? But so what did he do? He goes to Blumhouse. He goes, look, I got this movie I want to make called The Visit. We make it under the Blumhouse model for $5 million. If it turns out okay, we distribute it through Universal, and they did. And suddenly M. Night Shyamalan is back from the grave and ready to party. And
let's continue that. Our good friend Rosa Parra sent me her list, and her biggest disappointment. She couldn't be here with us, Rob, but you know, I always love her takes. This continues what you were saying, because this movie cost way too much. The first one, back in the day, which I love them all. I even like some parts of Mission Impossible 2.
I just watch it again. It's a John Woo movie. I love it.
It's a John Woo movie, but slowly you saw their budgets over the years just go up. But that first one was made for peanuts compared to Dead Reckoning. Yeah, that was Rosa Parra's biggest disappointment this year, which I'm, you know, I get it.
I don't disagree. Yes,
don't.
and I would say it was. I really love this franchise, and I've really loved the last. I love Rogue Nation, and I love Fallout. I love what McQuarrie, and Tom Cruise did together. I thought this movie. I was so primed to love this movie, and to be honest, when I say this, I hope people don't laugh at me, but nothing happens in this movie. You have these set pieces, like you have this evil AI. Well, what is it? What's it done? It throws a good party. You know, you see that they go to this great party.
Party.
And it
Beautiful party.
And it inexplicably in the beginning blows up the submarine that's testing it. Why, we don't know.
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it. And I'm like, where's the plot twist? I mean, I loved Esai Morales, but what's he doing? What is his character? What is his philosophy? Does he believe he's got great suits on, great clothes? And then, you know, you're watching all these scenes, but there's no twists and turns the way there were in like it. Okay, we got to find these keys, and now we're walking around an airport for 20 minutes trying to pickpocket. And I kept asking myself,
I definitely enjoyed it more than you and Rosa. But that's okay. That's okay. Go on.
Well, I mean, like, okay, when you show us the two keys, they make it a big point. Here are these two keys that control this AI, and it's in a submarine. But then they make a point of saying that it has escaped into the world. Okay, and then the submarine gets bombed, and we see all these dead crew members underneath the ice, and we see these keys hanging from their necks.
Right.
Well, who went and got those keys?
She
like,
did.
They're looking for the key, and I'm like, who? How do you even know? How do you even know that? Like, you've got the keys, and like, if somebody went under that water, and they had the keys, and yet the source code is in the ship, if you could recover the keys from the ice, why didn't you just go down and deal with whatever the AI? I felt that the problem that I had with the movie was I was not sure what was the AI doing that was so bad. It threw a lavish party in like Italy, and you could see the AI, the indicator up on the wall. I'm like, this AI, maybe it just wants to go to Ibiza and throw great parties.
Listen, I think it could have been shorter. I do think stuff was happening. You know, I don't want to do any spoilers. I definitely enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to part 2.
I mean, I have to say, I liked watching it.
I think a lot of answers.
Yeah, I mean, they can fill that in, but the problem is at the end of the movie, I'm like, I was like, what am I supposed to? I don't even know what I'm supposed to care about. What's the threat?
That's fair. Okay, so now we're gonna go to honorable mentions. Let's do that. Let's do honorable mentions, and then we'll do our top 5s. Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Rosa Parra's honorable mentions were Asteroid City and Flaming Hot. I did not see Asteroid City. I know you did.
Yeah, it's good.
And I saw Flaming Hot. So your honorable mentions are Across the Spider-Verse and Asteroid City. Tell us about Asteroid City.
Well, I am a fan of Wes Anderson's movies. And, you know, I've always been a fan of his movies. You know, like I know it's an acquired taste, but ever since Bottle Rocket, the way he uses sort of Kubrickian framing and all of that. And look, I love the space program and everything about it. The actors, it was so weird and quirky, and people might say that oh, it's just a typical Wes Anderson movie, but it's always the milieu, like the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Great.
I loved everything about Asteroid City. I was enchanted by it. Look, you bring in the space program, you bring in the idea of aliens, you bring in all these characters and his dialogue and their arch delivery. I just thoroughly enjoyed it, but it was exactly what I expected to be getting. You know what I mean? And it was definitely, as a Wes Anderson fan, and I thought it was beautifully made. It was one of his most star-studded casts. So I got exactly what I thought I was going to get. And I liked it for that reason. But here was the thing. I also felt like I'd love to see Wes Anderson break out of his Wes Anderson nest, you know, like, and do something a little new and
kind of like when Spike Lee did Inside Man. You
know, that's a really great example, because you go back and That movie's great, by the way.
Oh, so
It's
good.
so good. If you guys haven't seen Inside Man with Clive Owen, Jodie Foster, Denzel Washington, what a great movie.
Great
Chiwetel
cast.
Ejiofor. It's got a great cast.
Yeah.
And it's the story about
Christopher Plummer.
Christopher Plummer. Just go in. Don't read anything about it. Just take our advice here on The Slant. Take the Slant's advice to go watch Inside Man. The less you know, all you need to know is it's about a bank robbery. That's it. And going cold. Because it's great.
But that's interesting you say that, because wouldn't that be, that's a great idea, but it seems that, Wes is good doing Wes.
No, it's true. It's true. But I would just like all of his movies, whether it's Isle of Dogs, and I've enjoyed Wes Anderson's movies, and maybe I should just leave it at that, and like when Wes does Wes. It's just that sometimes I'd like to see, even Tarantino. We know that Tarantino movies are Tarantino movies, but they're pretty diverse in terms of their kinds of story. Like Kill Bill is different than Django, is different than Inglourious. I mean, I kind of think Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained are kind of two sides. In a way. You've got Kill Bill 1 and 2, and then Django, and then you've got Inglourious Bastards, these alternative histories movies, which I like. But then you go back and you watch Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown, and those are all pretty different movies. So I would like to see Wes Anderson do something, just because his style is what it is, and it's not. The reason I gave it an honorable mention is because he's definitely an auteur, but I'm getting what I get from Wes Anderson that I expect to get, as opposed to being surprised.
Let's save Spider-Man for later when I do my top 5.
Okay.
But with Rosa, she also mentioned Flaming Hot, which I've talked about on this channel a lot as well. Here is did you get a chance to see
I
this?
have not seen it, but I know, because I heard what's her face, the director, she directed it.
Eva Longoria.
Eva Longoria talking about it, and she made me want to see it. Because I know the story of it. And again, it fits on. There's Air, which is one of my favorites. Air, Blackberry, Flaming Hot. There's this series of films about,
what was that other one?
People making stuff.
Tetris,
which I loved.
I heard Tetris was really good.
Really good. And so you got these 4 movies kind of about the same things.
Time.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Very interesting. There's a lot to like about Flaming Hot. It's a comedy. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of charm. The acting is, just spot on. The pace of the film. It does that. It does that whole comedic device of the narrator. You're hearing the narrator talk, but then you're seeing the actors act out and speaking as the narrator, which I think is a lot of fun. They did that a couple times. And Tony Shalhoub is an incredible comedian. And, he plays Enrico, the PepsiCo president in the film. And then it does something that there's two things that you don't see, that you rarely see on cinema, right? Is a leading man like Jesse Garcia. Leading men don't look like that, and who look like a thug, who look like a certain stereotype, and yet have a great vulnerability to him. Fantastic performance. Also, too, it takes the stereotypes, the tropes of of cholos and lowriders and gang members, and she uses them as a plus, right? And I haven't seen that in a long time, since you could even say Blood In, Blood Out, which does that kind of like on a it shows different stereotypes within one family. So I really was really charmed by Flaming Hot. It's definitely my top 10. It's a good-hearted comedy, and yeah, I really that's that was, and I'm sure Rosa has her take on why she put it up as an honorable mention. But my honorable mention is Que Viva Mexico. And This film, although it's not Luis Estrada's best film in his kind of like canon, whatever, of his films from Mexico, that would probably be Herod's Law. It's still it cuts deep, man. What Luis does is that he tells you the state of Mexico within the family. Within a family, they all represent different aspects of Mexican society, Mexican life, where we're at politically, socially. It's very political. He doesn't give a shit who is the current regime. But to Luis, they're all the same. So it is a little long, but if you like Coen Brothers, if you like political satire, and then mixed in with good old fashioned Mexican sense of humor, this is a really fun movie for you to watch on Netflix. And finally, I want to say, if you're really into that independent spirit, he made this. It was produced with Netflix. He didn't like the Netflix deal. Luis bought the rights back because he wanted a theatrical release, as a lot of our guys, a lot of our auteurs do. Nolan, etc. Tarantino. He got the film rights back, and he was able to work with Sony, and we were able to. I was able to see this film, RMB, twice at a movie theater here in Los Angeles.
Wow. Okay.
So that was great. The gentleman that you see in the middle frame, the middle of the poster, he's got kind of like I'm looking at the screen to our left. He kind of has the overalls. That's Damien Alcazar. That is Luis's favorite actor to use in all his films. He's also going to be the father, or he's a main family member in Blue Beetle.
Right. Okay.
But this cast is just killer. Ana de la Reguera's and the son, what's his name? Alfonso Herrera. The two good-looking couple to the right. They play the kind of like wannabe upward mobile Mexicans, whereas his parents are, pobres, like they're very poor. And in Mexico, the caste system is strong still. The classism, excuse me, the class. So yeah, very entertaining. That is my honorable mention, Mr. RMB.
That's a good one. I like that. I need to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so how do you want to run this? You want me to run my video of all five? Then we'll talk. Then we'll run yours.
Sure.
Let's do that. Okay, we're gonna get into it. Let me bring up the first video. And wow, you guys are still hanging out with us. Over 80 people live in the chat with us. Can you guys do me a favor? Can you make sure you are subscribed to the Latino Slant, to the Burnett Work? All 83 of you. There's no excuse. Do it now.
Do it now.
Okay, let's bring up bring up a video here. Give me a second. Top five. Here's my top five. And we're just going to play it and we'll take it from there. Here are mine, Paulie's top 5 movies of 2023 so far. All right, those are my top 5, Robert. Air, kind of like that same thing you were telling me about, that whole time of kind of this discovery and an invention and new ideas. And of course, Matt Damon's speech at the end, that motivator.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the story. It reminded me of movies like Tucker, A Man in His Dream, about the car, and all these other movies. But first of all, I thought Damon gave it. It was, you could see that with Ben Affleck behind, coming back behind. It's his 5th film as a director, behind Gone Baby Gone, The Town, Argo, and Live by Night. And then he made this. You could see that their friendship that has endured since they were in high school together, maybe even before that, that they were having the time of their lives making this film. And the fact that Michael Jordan said, you have to get a certain actress to play my mother. Viola Davis has to play my mom. And she was ferocious. And then Viola Davis got her real husband to play her husband in the movie. And you could see that this film was made out of love, and it was made out of passion. Because when I first heard they were making this, I'm like, what? How? And it seems like, why should we celebrate corporate? What's funny about, to me, like, all successful corporations were once scrappy startups. At some point,
all of them,
somebody started them, and back then, Nike, even basketball was not as big as it is now.
No,
and part of these endorsement deals helped the NBA come back up on top. And you see a lot of that, like in the Lakers in Hang Time, the great documentary series about, I mean, they might take liberties and stuff, but you get the idea. And seeing how it worked at Nike, and that a man with a vision that everybody told him he was wrong. He said, no, I'm not. And I'm going to go out and do this. And not only that, he was told not to do something. He went out and did it anyway, because he had the strength of his convictions. And to me, that's America,
100%.
And
so was Flaming Hot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Same thing. Same
absolutely.
Kind of thing.
Guy was a janitor or a low level, whatever.
Yeah.
Ex gang member. And you can't do only in America.
These are such quintessential. And what's really interesting is, so you go and you see what I really liked, and these are just subtle things, but you see, like, Michael Jordan's parents are married. They're not it's not some single family mother or anything like that. You see that Michael Jordan, and they don't make a big point of it, but it's clearly there. And that Michael Jordan's mom runs the family, and you see, okay, and Matt Damon knew that. And he went up and appealed to her, did his research, found out. And so to me, Air is a great American story. And, while everyone disses on this country for all the horrible things, it's still one of the greatest countries in the world. It is still one of the countries that ended slavery. Slavery still exists in the world today. America ended slavery, at least for itself and for a lot of other people. So everybody's always saying, oh, America sucks. But between Flaming Hot, between Tetris, between BlackBerry, and between Air, it shows what American innovation, where it can come from, and how you can't do it alone. Matt Damon had to win over Michael Jordan's mom. And then, of course, Michael Jordan's mom's like, she ain't no dummy. She's like, we need a percentage of every shoe sold.
She was great.
And can you imagine that Michael Jordan's mother made one of the great financial decisions that probably anyone has ever made.
Well, they're all duplicating that now. That's like part of the deal.
Oh, but at the time,
right. At the time, it had never been done before. Absolutely. Well, number 4 taught to me, for me, it takes these 2 Australian brothers, took this horror genre, and you said something earlier about 70s filmmaking. I felt this at times. It was that outside looking in, kind of like that documentary feel at several times, which made it more disturbing, kind of like that Exorcist. Because you would think that this is like teenagers horror, like they're getting a hold of the Ouija board, and it's a teenage horror film. like I've never seen before. And I don't know if, did you get a chance to see this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was ferocious. You know, I really like this movie a lot. And I'll tell you something, again, these two guys started making videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And these Australian brothers, and that's how they were cutting their teeth. They were teaching themselves technique. And they parlayed that into their first film here, their first feature. And I'm astonished that we don't see more of that. With all the creativity we're seeing online, this is where the new generation of filmmakers are going to come from. And it made me happy to see people that came out making short form stuff on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, that they come out and they make this as their first movie out of the gate. And it's really good.
And I think they already filmed the second one.
Oh, they might. Yeah, I think, or a prequel. I think it was a prequel that, and I mean, I love that they did this. And again, to me, I'm always disappointed. Like, where the next, young people aren't that interested in cinema anymore. And I'm like, where's the next generation of filmmakers going to come from? And so from that perspective, this movie is impressive.
So my number 3 was Sound of Freedom. And what's interesting for me is that in regards to Hollywood, this movie's nothing new. Back in the day, they used to call message movies, Killing Fields. That to me is what grabbed me about this film, was the strong message and the drama. I mean, I was a crying mess when I left this film. So was Chris Gore was sitting right next to me. We were fucking crying our eyes out. The powerful message. So, it shook me, obviously, because of the subject matter. But the fact that it's a PG-13 shows you the subtlety of the filmmaker. Monteverde,
who's a Latino filmmaker,
who's Mexican filmmaker. His father and brother were killed by the cartel, so he had a very personal drive to get this done. And listening to him in his interviews. So yeah, I was shook, man. I was shook. And there's that. And then of course, just everything behind, as far as the media behind this. Never have I been called more names in group chats and whatever, because I like a movie. Absolutely, from just cowardly behavior to hate that I've gotten for liking this film. Unbelievable. And you know what I tell them? Go see the film. You're really gonna like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had anything to say.
Well, I mean, so I haven't seen this movie yet, but what's really interesting is everything I hear about, like Jim Caviezel and QAnon and all that. I'm like, what does it have to do with this movie?
Nothing.
It has nothing to do with the film.
Nothing.
And the filmmaker who made this movie is certainly not that. And child trafficking is happening all around the world all the time. If anything, the gentleman that Caviezel's playing is a very controversial figure, especially where in his home state of Utah, and maybe he's embellished some of his exploits, but I'm like, okay, it's a movie. It doesn't say it's a documentary
based on a true story. It says, right. It's not all right. Correct. I'm with you.
And so it's like you said, it's like any movie that is based on a true story. It doesn't say that everything you see is true. It's based on a true story. And I think as a movie, from what I understand, it works and that people really like it. And it's ultimately kick ass, we save the kids kind of a thing.
Yeah, it almost has that. It is a little long. That first hour is kind of like, it takes its time, just, as far as laying the groundwork, the scene of this film. But then that second hour, it really almost becomes like a CSI. Was it Law and Order episode? I don't know, which is entertaining.
Yes.
Very entertaining. Okay, let me move on. Oppenheimer. That's my. I mean, I've seen it twice. No pun intended. I'm blown away by Mr. Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. To me, Robert Downey Jr. steals this movie. Have you had a chance to see this film?
No, and I've got tickets finally to see it this week because I was going to go see it opening day, and I had 70mm tickets on IMAX, but I couldn't go, and because I had to be at Comic-Con, so I had to give up my tickets.
I missed you at Comic-Con.
I know.
Yeah. That's my and listen, you talk about the distortion of history. You know, one of the things that they didn't mention was the fact that, you know, where they built Los Alamos, you had Latinos and Native Americans living there. They fucking gave them 24 hours to leave their homes and leave their farms. That's not mentioned in this film, but I'm not gonna not watch it. And then I love it. You know, that's history separate. I like Nolan, man. Nolan for me is someone I could watch his films over and over. I just rewatched Interstellar.
Yeah, no, no doubt he's an incredible filmmaker. I can't wait to see this. And I love all of his movies for the most part.
And you gave this one an honorable mention. I've seen it 3 times in the movie theater. I am absolutely in love with this film. So many characters, so much the music, the pacing, obviously the animation, and its quiet moments. It does everything that I could hope like a comic book animated film could do and more. I can't wait to see the third one. What did you think about this film?
I loved it. And the only reason I gave it honorable mention is that it was a sequel. And I think the film's incredible. I think it was an incredible feat of animation. I thought it plussed, you know, if the movie could have the equivalent of being The Empire Strikes Back, I would say it was kind of like that. I mean, it was an amazing film. It's an amazing feat. It had, 3 directors? And they're able to make this. It's an amazing, astonishing film.
Here we got to interview the head of story, Octavio Rodriguez, and these were his sketches and how they came to life. He's an old friend from college. It's great. It was great to see his journey in his career to where he's head of story on this film.
Oh yeah,
I'm so proud of him. You know, but you know, I was in it. And Miguel Ojeda. I mean, it was a blast. It was a blast.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
It's an amazing film.
Let's get to yours, and because you didn't do an order, you rule breaker.
Yeah, I didn't really have because also I felt like I haven't seen Oppenheimer and I haven't seen Barbie, and I figured I couldn't do an order with them, so I just said, you know, what
totally
whatever order, you know.
Well, I mean, let's watch your list, and then we'll pick your brain. We'll talk about them. And in no particular order, here is Robert Meyer Burnett's top 5 films of 2023 so far, with an added film. let's start here.
Mm.
Let's start here because besides Air, I haven't heard of any of these films.
Okay, well, yeah, no,
that's actually not true. I'm sorry, that's not true. These French ones I haven't heard of. The Sisu I saw, and I did hear of
Sisu's Finnish,
and I did hear of the Japanese one. But let's start with the Beast.
Oh my God. Okay, so The Beasts is a movie about a French couple who they bought land in Spain, and they're going to move to Spain and set up their farm and live what they think is going to be a fun organic farm and rehabilitate this shitty land. Well, what they don't know is that the people that are already living there, the local folks, they have plans to sell off their land to a development company to make a wind farm, and make money so they can all get the hell out of there because they hate it. And it turns out this tension between this French couple and the locals escalates. And let's just say it escalates to a pretty extreme level. And it was something I wasn't excited. I didn't really know anything about this movie when I watched it. And I was like, where is this going to go? And it went to a place where I was like, oh my God. And it had so much to say about class struggle, about exploitation of corporations to people's expectations about what they're going to do, immigration, how, I hate these French people that have come in to exploit our land. It had so much to say about what was going on. And then it gets pretty extreme, which I was surprised by. But again, I realized all my list was, I am so tired. Like, look, I enjoyed Guardians 3. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is great. But I have so missed watching movies about the human stories and most of my films here are foreign films. Yeah. And that's only because the foreign films that I've been watching are in fact so interesting. And I mean, do I want to see yet another franchise movie that is just a variation on a theme? Sure, it's the 7th Mission Impossible movie. It's the 5th Indiana Jones movie. But I've already seen those movies. Yeah. I'm just watching another product in a line. What happened to the cinema that I grew up with? That surprised me. This surprised me.
Did you see this in the theater?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a screening of it. And I was knocked out by it. And because I didn't know what it was about. I literally went in cold. Knew nothing about it. So, and so I didn't know anything about this. Unlike the other movies that that are on this list, people had told me about them. That's why I saw them. And like Sisu, I saw because I bought the 4K Steelbook.
Okay, well, thanks for the recommendation.
But Beast is a drama, but it's a suspenseful one.
Love that.
Yeah,
love that. Night of the 12th. What is this movie all about?
Okay,
another French film?
This is a French police procedural that is based in a real story about a woman who is set on fire.
What?
And, yeah, it's a real story. And this one, I want to say like 6 French Caesar Awards, which is their equivalent of the Oscar.
Right.
And it is, first of all, it reminded me of Bong Joon-ho made a movie called Memories of Murder, a Korean film about these 2 cops on the trail of a serial killer based on a true story, which, by the way, since the movie came out, it was an unsolved case. Since the movie came out, they solved the case. And this is an unsolved case. So the movie never solves the case of who burned up the woman. But it's so absorbing. And about how these detectives, through dogged determination, they go through trying to solve this murder. And I love police procedurals. I love them. And I can't, I mean, why would somebody burn up a woman in a small town? And you find out like that there's a bunch of murders in France that are not solved. And this idea that these detectives, and you're watching them go methodically about their day trying to solve this murder, and you think like, well, of course these guys are going to solve this murder because they're so good at what they do, even though they have to deal with the mundane reality of what police work is like. But when you know that there's so many unsolved murders, it's like, oh my God, you know, and it just, the movie has this haunting quality to it because it's such a horrific crime. And it's just, you know, it was really unsettling. So if you like movies like Memories of Murder, or you like David Fincher's Zodiac, this kind of was fell along those lines.
And you saw this one in the theater as well?
I saw this one. I saw this one in the theater because I sought it out because I heard it again on Film Week on NPR.
Damn, it sounds amazing.
And
sounds exactly what me and Roby would watch.
I mean, it's again, it's a movie about real people in real situations doing real things. And I find myself, even Air, you know, Air did have that. It had a very much a Hollywood sensibility that I've sort of missed. You know, I'd love to see a new Field of Dreams. And I'm like, why aren't we seeing those movies? I mean, studios used to make them. Do they not know how to make them anymore? I mean, all studios want to do this Wall Street thinking is like, okay, we need to spend $150 million to make $1 billion. And it's like, how often does that happen? In Hollywood history, how many $1 billion, well, there's one more today, but how many $1 billion movies have there been? And, you know, I could see this movie getting remade. Like Christopher Nolan, his first big studio movie was Insomnia, which is a remake of a Danish movie that starred.
That makes sense,
yeah, I could see this movie getting remade in America. Maybe not exactly the same story, but it could be the same story.
Will be the same, but yeah.
And
okay, and I think it's available on Prime. I think I might rent it out tonight.
Oh yeah, I get it. It's but it's, you know, it's not. It doesn't have car chases in it. It's just an absorbing. I was very absorbed by it. I love crime thrillers.
See, I think what you're talking about in regards to Hollywood, the only area that really happens in is horror, the genre.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Yep.
I think they should mandate. It's like, all right, we're only doing films between $20 and $40 million.
Well, I mean, and the real question is, can you get audiences to go to the movie theater to see those movies? Because most people, and this is not a criticism, but we have been trained over the last, especially during the pandemic, that there are kinds of movies that people think they don't need to see in a theater. And so they just wait to see them on streaming. You know, and that's why I love seeing both Barbie and Oppenheimer. I think both Barbie and Oppenheimer, though, are in fact big screen experiences. You know, Oppenheimer, obviously Christopher Nolan's movies demand to be seen in theaters, and but even Barbie, with its look and what was done with the film, it would look so much more fun. Obviously, I wasn't the only one to see this, and I haven't seen the movie yet, but audiences have really responded to this movie to the tune of it did make $1 billion.
Oh, you haven't seen Barbie?
No, I don't think that there's one person on the planet Earth that could honestly tell you they saw this movie making $1 billion. Although that's not true, because one person on my channel did say it was going to make $1 billion.
Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge said he predicted it, but you know, I think let's put a pin on Barbie. Let's put a pin on Barbie. Let's keep talking about your great picks. The Quiet Girl.
Okay, I knew nothing about this movie.
Yeah,
I knew nothing about this movie. This movie was sent to me. I have to say, it was sent to me by Des Doyle, who watches my channel. This is one of the things I love about being on YouTube. He sent me this documentary he made called The Showrunners. That's all about TV showrunners. And he sent me the book that went along with this. So Des, shout out to you. And he included this DVD, The Quiet Girl. And I was like, I figured, okay, if you just, I don't know what this is about. There's some little girl on the cover. Like, you know, what is this movie going to be? And again, like its name, it is a very quiet, small movie that by the end it warmed my heart. And it's about a 9-year-old girl. First of all, the film's entirely in Irish Gaelic, I guess.
Whoa.
What did you say? And I guess it was nominated for an Academy Award. It didn't win, but it was nominated for Best International Film. And it's about this girl named Kate, who is sent to her, sent out to live with their aunt. She's sent to live with, and she's a vulnerable, quiet girl that like won't speak. And she's sent out, or it's not aunt's, like a distant cousin or something, some relative. And she's sent out to live with the relative and her husband, who they lost their own child years before. And
wow,
it's the three of them together. Her presence touches them and they touch her. Don't get, when I say, I mean touch her heart. Don't get weird about it. But their own, like you see these three, this girl and these two, this couple, this wounded, you see these people that are deeply, deeply wounded for various reasons sort of open up and blossom. And maybe it's the Irishness of it all and the countryside and the feel of it. But I was like bawling by the end of this movie. It really, it's not for everybody. It's a very quiet, contemplative movie. But man, it'll tug on your heartstrings.
It looks like it's available on Hulu now. Thank you, Fletcher.
Oh yeah, and then I got that's good. Yeah, I would recommend everybody watch it. And again, I'm just happy movies like this are getting made. They're not necessarily getting made in this country, but there's all this great cinema all around the world. So
yeah,
check it out.
Really weird place, man.
I mean, yeah, I mean our country is I think we really have lost our way. In a way, we're navel gazing. We're so far up our own ass. It's really weird. It's really weird where we're at. But I think these movies, what I loved about all these movies is they were movies like I grew up watching, and they're movies that they aren't necessarily action packed or anything like that, but they made me fall in love again with the art of cinema, and how, to me, what cinema is the greatest storytelling medium humanity has ever devised. And the great thing about the great works of cinema is cinema deals with the human truths that we all recognize. And maybe it depending on what different ways. I mean, I was thinking about Field of Dreams, and ultimately, there's a lot going on in that movie. But at the end of the day, it's a man playing catch with the ghost of his father. And when Kevin Costner says, "You want to have a catch?" to Ray Liotta, or not Ray Liotta, but his dad. I think Dwyer Brown plays his dad, and who worked with William Friedkin. You can't help but cry, and I miss that in cinema. And while I do think epic stuff like Across the Spider-Verse is amazing, and it does teach you the power of what animation can do, and it does show you things that you might not have seen before, but I do miss the stories about people, real people. And the slice of life stories that, I used to really love growing up, because I went to the Seattle Film Festival every year. So I would see these movies I wouldn't be able to see anywhere else. And world cinema, there's just as much going on in world cinema as there is anywhere else. And world cinema is not making franchise. And when I say world cinema, I mean movies outside the United States.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why I enjoy Luis Estrada's work so much, because it's so multi-layered with all the characters that he has, and often it's set in just one town, one location. I love that.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope. Okay, Suzumi.
Now I watched this because on my channel, there's a show, Israel, or as people know him online, King Tannic, does a show called The Otaku Experience about his love of anime every week.
That's right.
And he told me about this movie. Now, I did not know Makoto Shinkai, the director of this movie, made two movies that I own, Weathering with You and Your Name. And Your Name is an extraordinary movie that I've heard J.J. Abrams wants to remake, although I don't know what's happened with that. These are incredibly beautiful movies, and Suzumi is his new film. And you can't really, first of all, the animation, if you're not a fan necessarily of Japanese animation, watch Suzumi, watch Weathering with You, watch Your Name or 5 Centimeters Per Sound or The Garden of Words. His movies are absolutely astonishingly gorgeous to look at. And Suzumi is like that. And it's a total enchanting, whimsical, romantic fantasy about a young girl who has to save Japan from a mythical giant worm from another dimension. There's a talking cat, and there's a love interest that's actually a living chair, I guess you could call it. It's hilarious, and it's whimsical, and it's crazy and beautiful, and it is just gorgeously animated, and it's sad, and I love it. And this guy is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors.
So
Mikoto Shinkai is his name.
We will have your list in the video box description. All our lists, myself, yours, Rosa Parra, as well. I'll run Rosa's list as well. Okay, I think we got.
I think one more. I have one more.
You have because we already talked about Air, but you
Yeah.
did 6, so which I'm fine with. I love it. Sisu, which I saw as well.
Dude. Okay, now if people thought that I was getting a little airy fairy with my choices or whatever, let me just tell you, this is a movie that, by the way, barely has a screenplay. I mean, in terms of dialogue, it barely has any. What this movie has is it has one man who has liberated some gold, or has some gold. And the problem is the Nazis are retreating. It's a Finnish movie set in the end of World War II. And so this man has a Nazi problem that he decides he's going to get rid of. This movie is literally, I don't remember how long it is, if it's 90 minutes or 2 hours. It's of a dude killing Nazis. And at first it starts out in like he kills Nazis with guns and with knives, and then he realized and sometimes he kills one and sometimes he kills lots at once. But this movie, as it moves along, gets increasingly bloodier and more amazing and more outlandish. And it is, I mean, it's like it's even more outlandish than John Wick, the way this guy kills people. And I hand it to the filmmakers, because man, was I laughing. I love this movie. And
this is a real women's row here.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, this movie is so much fun. I mean, this is the kind of exploitation movie, you know, now we get really expensive exploitation movies like John Wick 4, but this movie just killed it for me. This is one of those movies that I would have watched on late night cable in like 1981. And I would have said, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. And I love this movie.
I really dug it, man. You know,
it's not deep.
It's not, and it doesn't. They don't. Like you said, it's all pretty much visual.
It's total exploitation cinema.
But you know, you need to create that legend. You need that, because the more he talks, you don't want to. You know, he's a ghost, man.
Yeah.
And then when he comes in, right, and saves the chicks.
Oh yeah.
They're just like, and you buy it, and then what happens? They get empowered and they start fucking killing Nazis.
Yeah, it's just it's because, you know,
Nazis
are the greatest.
It would have been like, you know, like the modern American thing. They're like, we don't need no man. We'll do this ourselves. It would have been that garbage in there.
Yeah. No, there isn't. That's. No, this kind of, in a way, it's kind of like Mad Max. You could have, if Mad Max Fury Road wasn't made, you could have, if somebody said that this movie was called Fury Road or something, I'd be like, okay, I buy it.
Yeah.
It's such a hoot.
I need to see it again. I mean, we saw it in the big theater. I had a great time. Fantastic.
I wish I'd seen this in the theater with the whole audience.
Fantastic lift. So Yeah, there's your no particular order. You had Air, you have Susume, the Quiet Girl, Night of the 12th, and the Beast.
Yeah,
Nice, bro.
and again, it just a bunch of different kinds of movies that I really enjoyed. That showed me that there's a lot of different diversity in the kinds of films that are getting made around the world, and I love that.
Yep. I do love that as well. I have some movies now to watch, and we'll probably get the Night of the 12th right away.
Yeah, it's, but again, it's a very realistic, down to earth French look at. I mean, if you like movies like Memories of Murder or Fincher's Zodiac, but yeah, it deals with a mundane, but this just a horrible crime.
Oof! Can't wait, dude. Can't wait. Great list, brother. Thank you so much. We have let me see. What did I do? Remove. Okay, we have Rosa's list really fast. Let's read it. Her top 5 so far. Number 1 was Guardians. I know she really loved that movie. Which I've heard great things about it. 2 is John Wick. 3001. 4 Across the Spider-Verse. 5 Blackberry. What stands out to me, it's a wonderful list, is that 1001. Did you get a chance to see that film?
No, 1001.
Yeah, I believe it's like it's a period piece. Maybe it's like it's period piece. It's like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I don't know that movie.
Yeah. Okay. You know about it?
Yeah. I haven't.
That's kind of like what we were talking about. Like, as far as, drama stories that Hollywood's just not doing anymore. I definitely need to check that out. And then everyone's been, I haven't seen Blackberry.
Yeah, I haven't either. But I hear that's it takes a more of a downturn than, say, Tetris or Air or Flaming Hot does.
Gotcha.
Because the Blackberry, they crashed and burned.
Yeah, they did. Oof. And I saw the first 20 minutes of Guardians, waiting for another film to start. I think at that point I was just so OD'd on superhero movies, man.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Guardians. I think that again, I thought the end was surprisingly moving. And I think as a trilogy, it really worked, because if there was no MCU, that I think those 3 movies still would have worked very well. Because they really they told a really interesting story. I love about these disparate people coming together and forming a team, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I like the way it ended. So
John Wick 4.
But again, I love the John Wick mythology. You go back, I went back and watched the original John Wick.
Yeah.
I thought John Wick 4 was beautifully made. It looks incredible. I like all the crazy characters, but it's like, how many? I don't believe that there's this many assassins left in the world. Like
in
all these
France.
And someone else said this to me. But a couple of my friends have been making this point, but he's the Baba Yaga. Like in the first movie, you can't even speak his name without being terrified. And now every Tom, Dick, and Harry who comes along will want to try and take him out.
Yeah.
Like, why do all these like bit players think that they can take on John Wick?
Yeah.
And I love the idea that there's this one guy that says, okay, if you agree to meet me, in single combat, you'll that I would like to have seen. But it's like, he's the best of the best. So all these people coming after him and he's shooting all these people in the head. It's like, why are any of you going after John Wick? Like, what, just because your boss told you? You're never going to win. How many people did he shoot in the head in this movie? 1,000? I mean, it's fun, but like I felt that way even about John Wick 2. And in John Wick 3, the battle at they're fun movies to watch. But when you go back and you watch the first movie, the first movie is, here you've got this superhero assassin that everybody's scared of, the Baba Yaga, whose wife has died of cancer, and she left him, got him a dog to keep him company while she's gone. It's kind of silly, but the tone of it and the mythology that they're building up is so interesting that, wow. But by the time you get to John Wick 4, it's missing the element that gave it, like, he just wanted his dog back and his car.
Yeah.
There's something silly. A man who the one thing they killed the one thing that his ex-wife, or his not ex, but his dead wife gave him, the dog.
Yeah.
And then they took his car. I mean, there's something absurd about him. They didn't realize they just fucking wronged the world's greatest assassin. And there was something in a way that's kind of whimsical.
Yeah.
Like they basically, I mean, imagine if you're if you were a person that actually that pissed off the real boogeyman. Like if there was a boogeyman, the supernatural boogeyman that minds his own business unless he's called out for a job, the way John Wick was, but you accidentally cross the boogeyman. Like if you've done that, the boogeyman's going to come for you and you'll never live. There's nothing you can do. So, but in John Wick, it's like all these people, we have to go get John Wick. So they send the Assassin's Guild or whatever, the Continental, all these people, the table, the high table or whatever. They're sending out, who can kill John Wick? He's the best of the best. So you have to go through all this carnage. And I really wish that there was a little bit more of that whimsical story element to it all. You know, all the characters have whimsical names, like the Bowery King. You know, I would like to have delved in more into that world, because how many people need to be killed? Because there's thousands of assassins. Like, how many? Is there really this many people being killed every day? You know, I thought there would be like a total of 100 assassins in the world, and John Wick is like the best of them. But apparently, there's thousands, and that's I liked watching John Wick 4, but I thought this is a little played out for me.
I would have to agree with you for the most part. I did really enjoy myself.
Oh no, it's of course you enjoy yourself watching it, but even I'm like, okay,
you know,
like look, I love the Fast and the Furious movies. I hated Fast and Furious 9. I couldn't watch Fast and the I turned it off.
What's the Tokyo one?
Tokyo Drift is
that's
amazing.
when I stopped.
Come on, dude, you gotta watch it. It's great. Finish that.
That's
off.
when I stopped.
And
no.
Fast 5 is a masterpiece, and this is like a direct sequel to Fast 5. I couldn't even watch it. No offense to Louis Leterrier, because he's a good director. This movie, I was so out. Even the way it was shot, the way it was edited, I'm like, would you stop editing? Stop cutting. No more cuts. And they kept cutting. I'm like, I can't. And John Wick, if they make a John Wick 5, I hope they do something and end it there.
Well, apparently,
made a lot of money.
They stole my motorcycle. Is John Wick 5? There, it's happening right there.
Yeah, but that's not the same as your dead wife's dog that she bought you.
No. Rosa, thanks for your list. Listen, great movies here, great films. We love you, Rosa. Man, you got to come on the show, man. Defend your movie. Okay. We got a couple of comments, and then we'll let you go. RMB, is that cool?
Yep.
All right. Member chat.
It's been fun.
Yeah, man. Did you have interactions with the late Manny Cotto during Enterprise, Robert? Rest in peace, Manny Cotto.
I'd met him, but Roger Lay was doing all the interviews for Enterprise while I was doing the interviews for TNG. So I did not interact with Manny very much, but I will say this. He was very generous with his time when we were doing because we were doing the TNG and Enterprise documentaries concurrently. And I was editing all the TNG stuff, and Roger was editing all the Enterprise stuff. So he was kind of off doing Enterprise while I was doing TNG, and then we crossed over sometimes. But Manny was very, very nice and very generous with his time. So shout out to him. And I really love what he did with the 4th season of Enterprise. Really did.
Butt Crack Media just says hello to us. Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Butt Crack Media. I wonder what kind of media you find in people's butt cracks. Is it 3D?
Some 4Ks.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to the second part of the year? It's really already started, but as far as for cinema, Dune 2, anything else?
Yeah, Dune 2 is at the top of my list. Ferrari, Michael Mann's Ferrari movie. With Adam Driver. It's funny, Adam Driver is in the Ferrari movie, playing Enzo Ferrari. I can't wait to see that. Just because I'll watch anything that Michael Mann makes.
The Scorsese film.
Yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon. Can't wait to see that.
That looks beautiful. That looks amazing.
Yeah, and again, not only do you deal with what's happening with the Osage Indians in that movie, but you also deal with the beginnings of the FBI. Yeah. So it has a lot of really interesting stuff.
Yes.
So I really want to see A Haunting in Venice, the new Hercule Poirot movie that
we want to see that very much.
It looks good, you know.
It looks really good.
I hate that I'm going to say this. I hate that I'm going to say this. I want to see Saw X.
Really?
The Return of Jigsaw. Yeah.
Jigsaw.
I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, I want to watch that.
Hey, why not?
I do. I kind of want to watch that. I also want to see the new speaking of Dune 2, Zendaya's movie Challengers, where she plays the tennis pro or the tennis that's directed by Luca Guadagnino. I can't pronounce his last name. Guadagnino. I think it's Guadagnino. Luca Guadagnino, who directed the Suspiria remake and Call Me by Your Name, and that movie looks good to me. And
what's it called?
It's called Challengers, and it's like a love triangle story that stars Zendaya. So that I want to see.
Okay.
You know, and let's see. I'm just looking here and seeing what else.
Well, you're looking definitely.
Oh,
Blue
you know what else I
Beetle.
want to see? The Equalizer 3.
Come on, man.
I love those movies. And of course, the science fiction movie, the one actually, The Creator.
That's what I was going to say.
Directed by
the
Gareth.
one I was going to say.
Yeah,
That looks
Gareth Edwards.
incredible.
That looks incredible.
That's the end of September, I believe.
Yeah, it looks incredible. I really want to see it. I can't wait. And then there's, of course, Ridley Scott's Napoleon is coming out.
Right.
That I hope is really good. And there's a movie called Poor Things. It's like a Frankenstein take on Yorgos Lanthimos, the director who's made a lot of really
I saw the
interesting
trailer
films.
for that. That's with what's her name? Emma Stone?
With Emma Stone. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
And then I don't know, what's been delayed and what's not been delayed, but I saw an extended trailer at CinemaCon for The Color Purple, the musical of The Color Purple.
Did you really?
Yeah, it was a longer trailer, and then the cast came out, and Oprah came out at CinemaCon. I got to tell you, even though you're sitting in a room like a room of jaded industry people, when Oprah comes out, the whole world perked up. Oprah Winfrey has power. She has Oprah power. When she walks on the stage, there's Oprah energy that permeates. But then they showed, the director was there, the cast was there, and they showed, I don't want to say, it was an extended trailer. I love The Color Purple, the original. It looks fantastic. The musical I didn't see the musical on Broadway or anything, but it looks.
Did you get to hear any of the songs?
You hear some of the songs in the trailer, but it looked great. It just looked beautifully done. And but I don't know if that's been pushed. And even though it's only on Netflix, I do want to see Zack Snyder's sci-fi epic Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon.
Want to see Rebel Moon?
Yeah. Why is that not getting a theater release?
Because it's Netflix. I mean, maybe it will. I don't know. And then Taika Waititi's soccer movie, Next Goal Wins, could be good.
That looks really stupid.
It kind of does.
Could be good.
But you might be right about that.
With what's his name? Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, and he hasn't been around much anymore, so I want it to be good for his sake.
And it's a comedy, so that's like kind of like you're doing something different.
And then there's the Hunger Games prequel about President Snow. Yeah, I like I like the first two Hunger Games movies. I like the books. I wasn't so big on Mockingjay, but I didn't like Mockingjay, the book, as much anyway. But hey, if it's good, Francis Lawrence coming back to do it, I hope it's good.
Well, Rosa stands by her picks. She will defend them next time she's on. No need for defending.
Yeah, no.
No, we love it. We love it. We love talking film, man. Deleted scenes came in with the top 5 real fast. Oppenheimer, Sound of Freedom, The Covenant. Didn't see that one. Extraction 2.
The Covenant is Guy Ritchie's movie that stars Jake
Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal. That's supposed to be great.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but great things about The Covenant.
Well, I saw that other one, The Kandahar with Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
Was it a blast? Okay, I'll watch it.
Oh, that was really
dude,
good.
I loved playing. I wasn't going to say playing and get away with it, but I liked playing a lot.
You know what? That's actually on people's list.
It's pretty good.
It's a great action film.
I have the 4K, dude. I went and bought that shit.
I saw it in the
I mean,
theater.
I'll buy Greenland. I did buy Greenland, and I give me Olympus Has Fallen. Whatever's fallen, I'm there.
Oh, I mean, here, and here's the thing too. Like, with Romy, it's like, as you know, whatever they like, you have to watch as well. Especially here in the house, she loves Gerard Butler, Liam Neeson movies.
Yeah, Neeson's. Let's talk about Neeson's. I love, and also somebody brought up, I'm looking forward to the second part of the French version of Three Musketeers. That French Three Musketeers movie with Eva Green. We haven't got it here yet, but that shit looks dope. I can't wait to see that. It looks so good. Oh my God, watch the trailer.
But she's pretty hot. She's still
hot. She's been hot like she's been in movies like 25 years. Kind of like Monica Bellucci. When I heard that Tim Burton's with Monica Bellucci, I'm like, really? How does that guy? He's done well for himself.
Good for him.
Bonham Carter, Monica Bellucci. You go, Tim.
Long live nerds. I mean,
man. Look at 70-year-old Danny Elfman killing it over this weekend in the South Bay out there in Irvine.
What are you doing in the South Bay?
He put on the show up in Irvine. I guess it's not really South Bay.
A Boingo
Orange
reunion?
County. Yeah, he did a whole thing. He did Boingo. He did his songs. So he did Boingo. He did a friend of mine was there, sent me a clip. It looked incredible. They were doing Dead Man's Party. It looks so good.
Speaking of hot chicks, we have the Firme Haina winner. And I thought you would want to be part of this because it's very important, but let's just recap people's minds.
Oh, there you go.
This is Bruna from Brazil. She's the female lead in Blue Beetle.
Oh, there you go.
This is very important research here that Fletcher Williams.
Yes, I feel I need to know more.
Right. Ooh. And we really love Fletcher Williams for doing all this hard journalistic work.
Yeah.
From Brazil, the whole country of Brazil is literally behind Bruna.
I'd like to be behind Bruna.
Hi-oh! And she goes up against, we can just keep playing this. We haven't done a Firme Haina battle in a long time, so we have to flex our toxic. I'm sorry, wait, what? You just doubled up on that, Fletcher. You're a bad man. In
case you weren't paying attention.
You're a bad man. Becky G from Inglewood. She comes in at 5'1". She likes long walks on the beach and doing songs with Snoop Dogg. But anyway, she's a massive kind of like rapper singer.
Yeah.
In the modern era.
I don't know at the age I'm at if I can even be watching these videos and opining on these girls.
Well,
I feel like it's weird and creepy. But I'll do it anyway.
It's not for us. This is for the people.
Right, it is for the people. And
I'll
power through.
Yeah, power through. Now here's what they both have in common. She's in Blue Beetle as well. She's gonna be the voice of the Scarab.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she also had a song in Flaming Hot. So yeah, man,
Okay, Slantino's vote.
Well, they voted, and here's who Becky G won 52%, Bruna won 47%. I want to recount. That's bullshit.
Okay, that is bullshit. Not to take anything away from Becky, but if you're not taking the Brazilian, you're wrong.
I mean, whoops.
Yeah, man. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, you guys voted. We don't want to I don't know where Fletcher kind of not saying anything, but
no, I'm here. I'm listening to you guys talk. I mean, I'm in the background.
Fletcher Williams, producer extraordinaire.
Hello, sir.
Robert Meyer Burnett.
I like that you doubled up on that shot with the editing.
Thank you. Coming from an editor master.
Well done. Well done. I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. We're going to let RMB go. And then Actually, I think I'll go too.
All right.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let me play some closing credits. And what's your next live stream?
I'm gonna do a stream at 5.
Oh,
I'm gonna do a stream about Willian Friedkin.
Of course you are. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank all our members. You can catch Robert Meyer Burnett on the Burnett Work and all his projects.
Come on down.
All that good stuff. He's got a live stream coming up in a few minutes. You take care, brother. I'm gonna give you a ring.
All right.
We're doing a movie night with Chris Gore, myself, in a few weeks. This is different than the regular one, but I want you to come.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Are you going to do it at the in Burbank?
Yes, we rented out a screening of Blue Beetle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I got students coming. I got the community coming. We're paying for popcorn, all that stuff. Romy's gonna be there. I'll be there. I want you to come.
All right, count me in.
Okay, have a good take a break. Get a break. He's live in about an hour and a half.
Yep, come find me. We'll talk about Hurricane Billy.
Hurricane Billy. Take care, RMB.
All right, man.
Brother.
Thanks for this. It was a great show. Thank you so much for having me.
It was awesome.
And thanks to the Slantinos.
Orale. Take care, brother.
All right, man.
Well, there he goes. And do we have any? We got to talk about really fast to the people that are still here. Let me talk to you guys really fast on what I'm doing this week.
Yep.
It's a lot, man. We just covered a lot. And then we got another story that came up. Okay, new reviews. Fletcher. I'm gonna drop a video review on The Golden Boy. The documentary was incredible. I can't wait to talk about it. I was gonna record today. Just Mondays are always nuts getting this show ready. I highly recommend it.
And for those who don't know, that's the Oscar De La Hoya documentary. Champion boxer.
2-parter on Max. Thursday, we're going to the premiere, me and Romy, of American Homeboy, the documentary. I will have an out of the theater review as well for that. And we'll see what else. Maybe I'll, do a red carpet, whatever. Then there'll be new videos, and then I think that's it. I think that's it, brother.
All right, it's fun-filled week.
But a great audience. If you are still checking us out and on a replay, make sure you are subscribed to our channel.
Yes. We're trying to get to 10K, and you can help with that. Please share. Find somebody who's not subscribed and make them subscribe.
Rosa, you're going to be there. Cool. We'll see you there at the American Homeboy premiere.
Awesome.
Thank you, Azteca. Glad you guys enjoyed it. I still can't believe Becky G won. Travesty. All right, everyone, wherever you're at, keep your slam fuerte. Gracias.
Have a good one.